This be crazy.
And now, a three-time sports editor, former online and managing editor, and host of Talk That Talk, award-winning journalist Terrell Chatterbox Emerson.
Welcome to it. Welcome to it. I think it's about time we can do another one, right? We can do another one. We can do one in person. Again, guys, it is your Monday episode of the Talk That Talk radio show. It's been 11 days. Well, 10 days, I guess. 10 complete days without, actually, maybe more, considering the weekend before. So we're up to at least 13 days, maybe, without the Talk That Talk radio show. I feel like my days are off on that, but whatever. But again, guys, your Monday installment of the Talk That Talk radio show. I'll get to my full day in a second. Clearly, I'm in here with somebody. I'm not just talking at the wall. We're starting at a different time today in terms of 2 o'clock. Give it up for that. We're still going until 5 for you guys. Got 3 hours of content for you guys. As a matter of fact, the person that I'm in the room with, when I asked them to be on the show, they were like, well, what are we going to talk about? I said, you know what? Bigger than that, I want the show to be an hour longer. So we're going to try to find something to fill the air because my good friend Alex Wright is in the building of the Las Vegas Review Journal. Alex, what's going on, my brethren?
Not much. Just a quiet weekend in the Las Vegas sports world. I don't think anything happened this week.
I feel like it's always quiet in March.
Yeah.
And it's starting to get under my skin a little bit because it's like, damn, what are we going to talk about? Like, I have like a show to fill. Like, this is consistent, right? Like, I say that coming off of two back-to-back show, at least scheduled show dates that we didn't do. We didn't do it because the Mountain West Championship was on the campus of the Thomas and Mack like it has been for quite some time. And I was actually in the building covering that for you guys. Ironically enough, we had games kind of wedged in some weird times. And because of that, that's why we didn't do any shows last week. But we're going to get to my mom's tip in. Before we do that, me and Alex are just kind of going to throw some stuff at a wall really quick and see if it sticks. I feel like first of all, before the show, if you guys are watching via our YouTube, first of all, we appreciate you. We thank you guys. You guys saw me taking a couple of forkfuls of something, right? And I brought my food today because after the show, and I never typically do this, but after the show, I got a bar shift. Not going to hold you. Forgot a couple of things about this beautiful Monday. Happy St. Patty's Day to you guys. So I forgot that clearly on more than one occasion. So there goes that. Number 2, I was invited somewhere later tonight. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll come. Why not? And then I picked up this bar shift. So now I was like, oh, so I have this radio show that I just extended for an hour, then a shift, then a commitment. Alex, I don't know what I did today,
and you'll be at all 3 of them. And because you always show up. You know.
Now that right there is what I might have to start changing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be completely honest. Part of me don't laugh. I accepted the engagement beforehand. Part of me wanted to be like, "Yo, not working." Not coming in. But honestly, the fact that it's St. Patrick's Day, I was like, I'm actually gonna go to work. Like I'm a bartender.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah, I'm coming to work. Why wouldn't I? But let's get to it, man. I feel like because we have 3 hours, we have kind of a delay. At least we can kind of fill some air real quick. I think I'll fill the air by letting you guys know that this beautiful show is being shot from the studio here at the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park, on Sunset in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Terrell. That's Alex. This is your Monday installment of the Talk That Talk radio show. Again, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you. If you would like to watch on YouTube, all you have to do is go to YouTube, go to the search bar, type in Talk That Talk radio show. Once again, go to YouTube, go to the search bar, type in Talk That Talk radio show. It's pretty much the same across every platform, guys. You guys can do that on Facebook. You guys can do it on Instagram. You guys can do it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Everything is right there. You guys can go to the search bar, type in Talk That Talk radio show, and get right to it, man. So, actually, the one thing that's different is our Twitter. Our Twitter is at Talk That Talk LV. Once again, guys, our Twitter is at Talk That Talk LV. This is is this 18? This is episode 18 of season 7. So yeah, man, this is pretty dope. So again, I keep saying I'm trying my best not to. When you run a business, it's funny because somebody told me that I might be overthinking it. I was like, cool, I could be. Somebody was like, you don't block every brand. No, I don't. But if I'm at the Mountain West Conference or the Mountain West Tournament and I don't know, I'm talking to Gatorade behind the scenes about something, yeah, I'm going to pour this Powerade in a cup. And people will be like, well, maybe you're overthinking it. Or maybe you're underthinking it. Like, I have an angle with this. Anyway, I'm about to give A and PM some free pub. But you guys know, I got my little secret potion, right? Dog, when I tell you, and shout out to cameras and the way that this works and this lighting in this studio, because I pull up to get gas and I was like, you know what? I got a full day ahead of me. Let me grab one of these. So I grab it. I promise you, dog. The cup, first of all, I feel weird. I'm in the building and I'm like, okay. I'm filling the cup up. I don't know what you do when you go to places like that, but the cup is sitting perfectly fine. You know where this is going. Pushing the button. It gets, I promise you, dog, to about right here. You would have swore a frog jumped in my damn cup. I've never seen a cup damn near do a somersault. It just almost fell off the thing. I'm like, and bro, first of all, keep in mind, I just said it fell this way. I'm so thankful you guys can see it. It's an orange stain somewhere on here. I was so pissed, bro. I ain't been so, and then that was the start of this is before the radio show. I said, oh, it's gonna be one of those days.
Yeah, it's just one of those days. I've never. It's there. You're just letting it do its thing, fill up, and then it just does a flip, does I'm gonna spill on you today.
And you know what's funny? I know you just said I'm gonna spill on you today, but it sounded like you said ominous, and I was like, I hope it's not. But this is the funny part. When it spills, the funny thing is it drops to about right here. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It didn't like a lot didn't spill. So I grab everything, I wipe everything down. When I put it back on the stand or on the drain, as soon as I sit it down again, the drain shit like the thing under it shifts. I said, oh, I don't know. I don't obviously work there, so I don't know the way it's supposed to go in. But clearly, once this cup got to a certain weight, I should have held it. Because once I put it back, it shifted again. And I was like, oh, that was the issue. All right, get it. I get it. But let's get to my mom's tip in, man. Let's get right to this show because I feel like some people might want us to talk about UNLV basketball. That's a wild guess. We'll throw it at a wall and see if it sticks. My mom sent a couple of these, and I liked them. So let's go ahead and get to this one. Thursday, I have a different one out of this group for you guys. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. once again, guys, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Again, let's go ahead and start this typical show like we always do, especially when Alex and I are on it. Let's talk about the newsroom for about 45 seconds. You want to know my favorite part of a newsroom? And by the way, I'm kind of working on something like that for the company because it's just necessary. We just need it.
Yeah.
You're in a newsroom, and I don't know. Actually, I lied. I don't know what the RJ's newsroom is like right now, but I know what it was like before. And with all due respect to the RJ, this is not for you to say. When I was there, I felt like, obviously coming fresh out of the UNLV newsroom, I was like, oh, you guys don't play music in this joint. Like, y'all don't communicate as a family in this joint. Like, damn, y'all need to liven it up a little bit. Right? And that, again, is something that I'm kind of working on for the company. But the thing that I miss and why I'm working on it for the company is the constant back and forth, right? We'll hear the chancellor said something. 60% of the room is like, they're on the offense. I feel like we should do this. The other half of the room is like, well, let me reason with you guys. How about we do this? And just that constant back and forth, I feel like is necessary. So the 10%, life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you react to it. That is 1000% the newsroom. The amount of ideas that get tossed around in the newsroom for what you guys see on a newspaper or on a website or even in your tweets, you guys have I'm not going to be like an athlete and say you guys have no idea, right? But you guys need to come and feel that energy because it's almost a synergy.
Right. And you mentioned the UNLV newsroom. There's nothing like being there on a pitch meeting or being there on a production day, putting together the newspaper, and it's like, what do we put on the front page? Or the pitch means, all right, what are we going to do for next week? What are the things we're going to do? Or the middle of the week, like, oh, this news happened, or this person said this for this story, and just the bouncing of ideas, and really that, like you mentioned, that camaraderie. You mentioned, the RJ newsroom. It's different for sports because we're all working all the time, so we're able to get in there once a week and meet with the editors, and it's a fun time when we're all in there with me and. I don't do too much talking, but Adam Hill's there, Ed Graney's there, Callie's there, the whole crew's there. It's a fun Tuesday when we're all in there. But yeah, that a lot of things that's if I feel like we could all write a book about the things that never were never able to come to fruition for whatever reasons. The rumors, the things we heard behind the scenes, if we were able to do that, and also just the silly wackiness that just kind of happens in the newsroom. I remember it was kind of tough for us because we were that first group after COVID, so some people were still remote and all that, but we had a lot of late nights and early mornings and getting in there when I don't think we were supposed to be in that building.
That's always when you know that you're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like when you're a journalist, you're like, oh, I don't know if we can do this. We're in here. It doesn't matter. The funny thing is, too, real quick, as we're getting into our topic list, of course, we're starting with UNLV parting ways with Kevin Kruger, right? So Cerritos. I did this poll. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna send you this Twitter page. I think it's at I forgot what the ad is, but it's overheard in the newsroom. And they haven't tweeted in about 2 years. I'm going to bring that back. Because we used to be at Cerritos, we would be in a newsroom and somebody would ask, I don't even want to do it. Somebody would ask something. It could be whatever it is. And you could just see somebody just start tweeting. And it would just be to overheard in the newsroom. And it would just be the quote.
Yeah.
Please go read that timeline.
We had a thing. We put up a quote board. So it would be quotes out of context. It would be things we edited out of stories or just some of the wackiness that we had. I still have I think I still have a few of those sticky notes somewhere.
You have to. You
Yeah.
have to keep it. It's surprising. It should be a pride and joy, and it's almost like a prize at the end of it, right? You'd be like, I experienced this. I have a story behind this. I have a friend whose name is Rambo.
Mhm.
It's a her. We were at JACC. We're gonna do this on a show now. This is what you guys signed up for 3 hours. So we were at a JACC, right, which is a Journalism Association of Community Colleges, and it's like a conference, right? So we show up, and all of us are there. Like it's that moment, right? We have a SoCal and then we have a state one. So forgot this one might have been the state one. We might have been in Sacramento for this one. So we're there or whatever. They had like this game room that was open 24/7. And I was like, I like what y'all did there because I know that we're night owls. We're gonna probably be up weird hours. I'm like, all right, cool. I go down there. It's a group of Talon Marks reporters down there. Shout out to the gang, right? And we're down there. We start to play charades. So we're like, cool. I feel like I cheated by the hints that I gave, but it was 2 hints for 2 movies. I said Sylvester Stallone boxing movie. That woman looked me dead in my face and told me Rambo. And I was like, oh, you're never living this down. You're never. It's like 3 a.m. We shouldn't be up. We have competitions in the morning. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? She saved in my phone as Rambo. When I address her on social media, is Rambo. Right after that, it was, dude, where's my car? I said, I forgot what the hint was. And at the end of it, when time was out, I was like, it was, dude, where's my car? She said, you parked it in the back. I looked around the room. I said, Rambo can never be on my team again. This can never happen again. Moments that, bro, best time at Cerritos was trying to figure out the editorial. Arguing for 45 minutes and then trying to figure out who wanted to write it.
Mm-hmm.
We would argue for a full side for 45 minutes. Troy, you want to write it? Not really. Not particularly. I just wanted to address the point. All right, man, but let's get to it. We've kind of stalled enough. This is the way I like to start shows. You know this better than anybody. We went a little longer today for the simple fact that we do have a 3-hour show lined up for you guys. We are starting in the college basketball world. We're going to be here for some time. We're going to be here for an hour. So we got a lot to talk about. I got a good 20 minutes on Kevin Kruger, man. After 4 seasons, Kevin Kruger was fired, essentially. And this is one of them situations. I know we discuss it a lot with Race, and we'd be like, well, the words matter and the parted ways and the fired and which one is which. Kevin Kruger was fired. So, with that being said, after 4 seasons, I kind of was doing a little, I don't want to say number punching, but I was just looking at some things, right? Obviously, Kevin Kruger 76 and 55 in 4 seasons with an NIT berth, coupled with 2 wins. Alex, man, I was gonna say it's over, but maybe it just begun. I don't know.
Yeah, we love a UNLV coaching search. We love it. We could talk about that later. But you mentioned Kevin, and after they lost to Utah State, you're just kind of waiting. It's like, okay, what's going to happen? Because they're either going to. I thought it was going to happen that next morning. They're going to announce he's fine, or they'll release a statement that said we're bringing back Kevin, and there's going to be something, and you're just kind of waiting. And the more you kind of wait, you're like, oh, is he going to stay another year? Is that going to happen? But then they come out and announce that he was fired, parted ways, as the release says. But right. 2 years left on his contract. It's just, it's a tough situation because you feel like obviously Kevin has ties to the program, and it means just so much to him. And Kevin just seemed like an easy guy to root for UNLV fans. He's a former player. His dad coached here. He knows things about UNLV and Las Vegas that 99% of other coaches don't know about in terms of that like connection to the past and all that, and what it means to wear that Running Rebel jersey. He knows what it means to play in a full Thomas and Mack Center, right? So disappointing in that instance that it wasn't able to come to fruition with more winning and some Mountain West titles and some NCAA tournament bursts, but it's the reality of college sports, right? You look at, you got to go to the NCAA tournament to be anywhere relevant in college basketball, especially with how dominant football is in general. And then, of course, now it's becoming bigger at UNLV.
Who would have thunk it? Right?
Who would have thunk it? Yeah, that's it's funny. I was at NASCAR, and some of the reports actually went to a UNLV hockey game, and they're talking about UNLV hockey. I like to talk about them later too, but
let's do it.
They're talking about UNLV hockey, and they're like, man, I never thought like there'd be more people at a UNLV hockey game than a UNLV basketball game, or like the crowd would be more energetic than a UNLV hockey game than a UNLV basketball game, and that's
in the Final Four.
Exactly, literally right now. But yeah, just with the program and 4 years of not going to the NCAA tournament, 4 years of just never being able to get to that next level, right? Being an 18 to 20 win team, but never breaking through. Really breaking through to 24, 25, 26 wins and being in that spot where you're on the bubble or you're, a legit like top 25 program. That's when it's, 4 years in a coach's career, but also now going on over a decade into the program's history. You had to make that change for the better.
And so, first of all, you kind of said something already that I kind of was going to bring up during mine. You said that Kevin Kruger knew a lot about the city and about the program just because of his history, right? And shout out to my OG Steve Weiss from NFL Network. Told me when I was at Cerritos, I used to tweet to every like sports topic. And he asked me one day, I was at the house, and he was like, don't you have a radio show? And I was like, yeah. He was like, why are you giving your opinions away online for free? I didn't have an answer. I said, you're right. He said, make them go to one place for your takes. I said, that's a genius right there, right? And last night I felt it was necessary for me to put that tweet out, right? I'm not sure if you saw the tweet, but I put out a long thread, right? Wink Adams put out a thread, and I responded to one of his tweets, and I kind of was highlighting exactly what you just said, right? And shout out to Chris Wynn, who brought it up in the tweet as well. And I was talking to Chris after one of the games, and I told him, I said, hey, this program, you know what I've been saying since Westgate. This program, for me, is comparative to the Detroit Lions. And there may be some that say, oh, well, the Lions never won. Cool. How many Division I teams are there? So we're not talking about 32 teams. So we're not talking about that from that perspective. We understand we're talking about college versus pros. I'm talking about simply talking about mentality. So that being said, I said, well, let's go to Dan Campbell, for instance, right? Dan Campbell went what? 1-15 in his first season?
Yeah, I think 2-15 or something. Yeah,
something crazy, right? You think UNLV would have ever let Kevin win 10 games in his first season? No, right?
No.
So Dan Campbell comes in, and again, being a Packer fan, right? Being a Packer fan and somebody that has watched the Packers his whole life, I told everybody, scared the hell out of me when he went in. And the first week on the job, I saw Barry Sanders in the building. Made my stomach turn. I said, because that's how you exercise demons. You're already a franchise that hasn't done much, right? Why have we exiled the ones that did what we do accomplish? Or what we do champion, rather? The things that we have accomplished, we villainize those people. Why is that? And then the details of the Matthew Stafford meeting came out. First thing he said to Matthew Stafford was, "Oh, no. I'm not going to ask you to stay." First of all, we've seen Dan Campbell in press conferences. I believe he did it just like that. My goal isn't to get you to stay. I just need to know how to fix it. That was step 2. This one took a little bit more time. But then Calvin was in the building. At Westgate, I was like, this team is going to be very, very good in short order. He came in and fixed mistakes that wasn't his. But this is somebody that was a part of that 0-16 season who knows what it feels like. I don't have very many regrets. I have one regret presently. I wanted to ask Kevin Kruger about Utah State outnumbering UNLV the way they did during the tournament. And I wanted to ask him, you know better than, and I'm going to try to actually get into character real quick. You know better than anybody what this building feels like when UNLV is playing at its peak. Pun intended. What does it have? What has to happen in order for UNLV to get back to that point? Is the simple answer to win. That's the only regret I have. It's the only regret I have right now. Now, the reason why I say that is because everybody knows Kevin's history as a player, right? I'm going to continue to go back to my conversation with Greg Anthony. And his endorsement of Kevin, his endorsement of DJ, and him saying they got some things to figure out. They got to add some older pieces around it. Yes, the basketball portion, we're inching toward that. Kevin had all of us, as in the national championship winning team, on campus prior to the season starting. I said it when I seen UNLV Rebel, the Rebel program tweet a picture of Larry Johnson. I said, uh-oh. Now we're on the right track. I said it a month ago. If you fire Kevin Kruger, cool. You need to hire somebody that cares enough to show them on day one, hey, we're going to watch this 1990 doc real quick. I'm going to show you Tupac Shakur making several appearances in UNLV apparel. I'm going to show you the TV shows that highlighted UNLV flags in the back. I'm going to do that. We can get to some names if you want to in about 3 or 4 minutes if you want to, but is Will Wade going to care? Does Craig Smith care? Want to give me another one? I don't. Do they care? I seen somebody, actually, I think Wink might have tweeted it. By the way, Wink was alluding to that as well, saying that we're the only program with a rich history that doesn't reach back to its alum. I think in one of his tweets as well, and this is the last point I'll make, and I'll give it back to you. Wink said, let me not even say that. The tweet said it because it could have been Wink's. It said UNLV needs somebody who cares enough about the program to want to see it get back to where it was. Similar to a Lindy LaRock, right? Somebody who's from Vegas. Mm-hmm. You might have just fired the guy.
Might have. The thing is, what would a fifth year of Kevin Kruger look like versus the first year of somebody else?
I agree.
Right. And you mentioned some names. Let's just say like Will Wade. who
I would be excited
I would be too, even with some of the baggage he has.
for sure.
But let's be honest. Will Wade comes here, year one, they're whatever. They get to the NCAA tournament. Let's just say they win the Mountain West, and then year two they go off and then they get in as a large, get like a 5 or a 6 seed. After year two, he's probably going to some SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC school. He's going, and then you got to do it all again. And then what says the next, Will Wade or up and comer like Eric Olin at UC San Diego? What makes you say that they won't do the same thing 2 years, 3 years? I'm out, and then you're having this sort of constant turnover. And to the point that you made about fixing problems that aren't yours, they're the things with what hasn't been right about the UNLV basketball program. It wasn't 100% on Kevin or what Kevin did, right? But it seemed like he cared about what needed to do, the things behind the scenes that needed to get people to care, to get people excited about the program, to fix those, fix those past relationships with how all those players felt like, they treated Tark on forcing him out with the university and all that. And you're right. I don't know if there's anybody out there that's really has that passion for Las Vegas or UNLV, or even has that commitment to where they want to come to a mid-major program and invest and be here for 10 years or 12 years, or be here for a long time, be like a Tark and stay here for a long time, be that guy that stays at a basketball school and a Mountain West program that's going to go into a new look Mountain West, that's going to, realignment and things are going to be different and change everything. You don't know what the conference will look like at all in 10 years, but it's you could fix things quickly in 1 year, but maybe the quick fix going to be the best move for the program, right? Because we saw what football did with Barry Odom, quick fix, and it's there, 2 wins and 2 bowl games and 2 Mountain West championship game appearances. Obviously, I'm really excited about Dan Mullen and what he can do, but what if it's 7-5 or 6-6 this first year, right? What if it's a little bit slower, or what if it's another Barry situation, 2 years, boom, winning, and then
I'm leaning toward the latter.
SEC school comes in, exactly, and then you got to bring in another guy. Like, can you bring in a third person, and where does that stability in the program really come in? Can you even develop that, right? You look at you look at so many other programs. I mean, obviously San Diego State's an outlier, having that identity and of how they do things, that seamless transition to Brian Dutcher, right? And they're still there, and they're still making NCAA tournaments, and you see all these other programs, all these other mid majors, and it's the quick fix might not be fix. It might be a short term solution, but what does everything kind of look like in the long term?
No, excuse me. I'm actually with you on a lot of what you just said. What's interesting about Kevin is, excuse me, to answer your question. See, I hate even being this guy, but I do understand your question of like, what does a 5th year from Kevin Kruger look like versus the first year from somebody else? But the reason why I wasn't pondering that question too hard is because of what you just said a second ago, right? In terms of building a program, I've been here since 2017. Ironically enough, that was Brandon McCoy's first and lone season here with UNLV. That was a 20-win season for Marvin Menzies, who, when he originally took the job, had to piece together a roster. We've had Marvin Menzies. We've had TJ Otzelberger. We've had Kevin Kruger. The reason why I wasn't pondering that question as much is because the question that I was actually pondering was, what would Kevin Kruger's last 2 years have looked like if Kevin Kruger didn't hear whispers that somebody was coming for his job? That was the question I actually pondered more so, because I told you last year when I was here talking and I was like, yeah, well, I told you guys before, I don't feel like Kevin Kruger's job is on the line. Somebody hit me and said the seat is hotter than you think. And I told you not soon or not long after that, Kevin Kruger started to coach in a different way. And the team started to win. So I believe that it got back to him. Kevin Kruger and the UNLV Running Rebels last season, and I'm the guy that said it, right? If I think 8 teams dropped out, something crazy, right? If 4 of those teams in particular do not drop out, UNLV doesn't make it. Sorry. But they did. And they won a game. And then they won 2 games. By the way, one of those games they hosted. I think the biggest slap in the face is walking in the following season and hearing off rip, I'm coaching for my job. So now, to be completely honest, if I ask the question that I asked and I'm pondering that question for the last 2 seasons, that means recruiting is different. I'm not trying to build a program. I'm trying to put a Band-Aid on this joint to keep my job. That's what I saw for the last 2 seasons from Kevin Kruger. To me, because of that, all of the questions that you have are on the table now.
Right. And we've seen this kind of every year, right? With UNLV, there's a kind of a high amount of roster turnover, or bringing in guys who, you have some guys who are in their last year of eligibility or something like that you want to, try to build around, right? That are going to be your star guys, but then you also have this next group that are going to be the guys of the future. You hope that are guys of the future, and sometimes things just didn't work out, whether it's with injury, or you look at Rob's injury, and I felt like that was a big from a vocal leadership standpoint, that kind of hurt, not having him out there, or Bear dealing with his injury throughout the year, and then obviously DJ not being out there. So you're right, that kind of that changes everything, because it's like I can't develop my guys. I can't let them ease into a role. They gotta. I mean, you look at DJ Thomas as a true freshman last year, when it should have been his senior year of high school. He's out there, the starting point guard, playing practically 38 to 40 minutes a game as the starting point guard, and needing to be not only a facilitator but a primary scorer for the team last year, being needed. And it's probably not like what necessarily, I don't know, behind the scenes or all, but what maybe not what Kevin wanted necessarily, to put so much on him. He's going to be a star and a leader for this program, right? But do you throwing all this pressure on him, putting all the pressure on other guys, and be like, all right, we gotta do it now, as opposed to being able to let the program grow and develop. But you kind of, at the same time, with how college sports is, you kind of can't wait to be patient. I mean, I know you mentioned Utah State. I mean, they're 4 different head coaches in 7 years, and they've all taken them to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and I guess that's the new way of college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, if we were to have a new head coach be announced currently, or in the present day, in the coming days, they will have to deal with the fact that DJ Thomas is in the transfer portal. So there goes that. You know what's funny? And you're gonna know this better than anybody. There is so much oftentimes that I want to tell the public that I just can't. Let's move on, Alex.
Okay.
We're not done with this. Not by a long shot. Not by a long shot. This UNLV story is, you know what was so interesting? After what UNLV football did, we've told people for the longest that this is a basketball school. There is so much pressure on Eric Harper for this hire. Excuse me, but the men's bracket is out. 14 SEC teams, which is a new record for the tournament. You want to be the one to say it, or you want me to?
You say it, no. I'll bounce off.
So the funny thing is, somebody asked Lindy LaRock about the new metrics, right? And she was like, I think it's like 37 things that they're picking from, whatever the case may be. There's always going to be people that hate the process to get to where we get to. If this is the way that the process is going to work, and this is what the process is going to look like, I'm going to hate this process for however long they keep it.
Exactly. Let's look at Texas.
Let's do it.
On the men's side. 19-15, 6-12 in SEC play. Did not beat Alabama, did not beat Auburn, did not beat Tennessee, did not beat Florida, did not beat any of the top 4 teams that people think could be legit national title contenders. Their best SEC win was Kentucky. And then you look at their non-conference schedule. They played 3 teams in, I think it was the Ken Pom Top 100. And they went 1-2. They lost to Ohio State, who just missed the tournament. They lost to UConn, an 8 seed. Their best, Texas, of the SEC, their best non-conference win by Ken Pom metrics was St. Joseph's, an Atlantic 10 team. That's the that's like at the end of the day, what are we doing? A power conference team that has 15 losses, that has 6 games under 500 in their conference, doesn't even get to 20 wins, and they're in. This is, again, the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12. I'm sure they're going to be vouching after West Virginia didn't make it. These conferences get so big, and they go to like 20 conference games in some instances, and they don't play anybody in the non-conference. They don't come to, maybe they'll play in some special tournament or something like that to get on TV, right? But they have weak non-conference schedules. The Lady Rebels had a tougher non-conference schedule than the Texas men.
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
And they're not gonna go to Drake to play Drake, or they're not gonna go to UC Irvine. They're not gonna go to Viejas or Logan or Fort Collins or Boise.
Not going to Logan.
No, not going to Albuquerque.
I don't know if I would go to Logan.
Definitely
they only
not.
had 2 sections at the Mountain West tournament. It was the loudest. I thought I was at a Utah home game. I said, they have more people than just the people in these 2 sections. There's no way in hell.
What a shout out Utah State. Their student section is awesome. Shout out to them. But it's because people talk about expanding the tournament, right? And if it got to 76 teams,
they won 105 teams. It's bad though.
The SEC wants all 16 teams in, and then they want their all 16 of their football teams in, and they want everybody, and they're going to be.
Well, they might have a point.
They might have a point, maybe. Yes, but it's just football has become so dominant that the college basketball regular season gets pushed. Doesn't get the national attention, right? And now I'm scared it's gonna get even less national attention because all these SEC teams and Big Ten teams and all these power conference teams, they won't play each other. They'll play soft non-conference schedules. So there's not all those big games. So you pad your stats and you beat up on bad teams and you're beat a team by 40 and your net or KenPom goes up high, and then you just score some quad 1 wins because every SEC game's a quad 1 game, and then you get in at 19 and 15.
So everything that you just said, because I was going to do it, can you just apply that to North Carolina? There's no way in hell. There's no way in hell. And I know I grew up a Duke fan, so part of my dad might be at the house like, man. So, I almost said something that I don't want to say.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to talk about what people deserve, right?
Mm-hmm.
My dad, who's a Tar Heel fan, he said, I've watched this team this season. He said, at no point, even in wins, did I feel like I was watching a tournament team.
Mm.
So get ready, guys, because this is actually going to be my favorite part of the show because I'm here. I told my dad, I'm pretty sure just like we found out, the world found out that North Carolina was the last team in. If I'm Boise State, I got to know, where the hell were we? Because I want to go over some things, right? Gonna be honest, guys. You guys know how me and Alex typically do our shows. We don't talk before the show. So I didn't know he was going to bring up Texas. So that takes 15 minutes away from me going off on North Carolina. So I'm damn near going to give you guys 15 minutes on Boise State. I went off on the phone with my dad and said, there's no way I'm about to defend these Broncos. And he was like, yeah. He was like, when you were like a student, I remember you talking about UNR. Obviously, that's your rival, but Boise was always the one you were talking. Because I hated running into him. Every time you see Boise, you got to know where this is going, right? But if I'm Boise State, let's look at the non-conference. You want to look at the non-conference or the regular? Which one to do?
Well, let's start with the non-conference.
Let's start with the non-conference. Yeah. You lose to San Francisco. They're playing postseason games.
Yeah.
They're playing in the NIT.
Mm-hmm.
You lose to Boston College. At the time, they're 6-1. Boston College stinks.
Yeah.
That's a bad loss.
A bad loss, yeah.
This is not college football.
Mm-hmm.
We just said that, right? So that's a bad loss. Let's keep going. By the way, wedged in between there, we beat Clemson, who's a 5 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind. So, we lose to Washington State. Thank God for the basketball crown, for the college basketball crown, because they're a postseason team. Whew, it helps us. Cool. Let's move on to the conference, the regular season, or
don't forget the St. Mary's one.
Don't forget. So let's add the same. And the funny thing is, I was going to mention South Dakota State because it was a win, but it was a 1-point win. They're playing postseason ball too, right? So you just said it a second ago, but you have the St. Mary's win as well. That's an overtime win, quality win. You lose 2 games during the regular season to San Diego State in a down year. They make the tournament. It's not going to serve as a down year. I've been in this Mountain West for quite some time. So is that man right there on the camera. This is a down year for San Diego State. This could be ugly. So you lose 2 games to San Diego State throughout the season, right? And this is where I told my dad, because he obviously is a college football guy. He's not really a college basketball guy. I'm trying to break down how this works throughout the year. Boise lose 2 games to San Diego State throughout the regular season. It puts San Diego State out of the Mountain West Championship. Not only does it put it out, It puts San Diego State out in the quarterfinals, and it does it by 10. Then what does Boise do the rest of the way? Boise makes it to the title game. So you're 1-2 against San Diego State this year, but you're 1 win. As a matter of fact, let me go back and look at the losses really quick too, because there's an 8-point loss and there is a. Am I blanking? There's an 8-point loss and then there's a 17-point loss, right? So 25 combined points in those losses. You beat them by 10 when it matters most, and you also made the conference tournament. So now let's look at some other things about that particular matchup. Let's use UNLV. Boise walked through UNLV twice. San Diego State didn't split with UNLV. San Diego State got swept. So, you got swept by a team in the conference that didn't make the tournament. How did we fare against them? We dog walked them. If I'm Boise State, sure, I could be mad San Diego State got in. I am fuming that North Carolina is in the big dance and we're not.
Right. They were the first team out was West Virginia. The second team out was Indiana. The third team out was Ohio State. The fourth team out was Boise State.
They're going to make me defend Boise State. There's no way in hell. Wasn't Indiana 19-13?
Thought they had 18 wins. Indiana,
what did they have?
Indiana, the team that's more or less fired their coach too. Yeah,
that's all but signed.
19-13, 17-15 Ohio State.
Boise went 24-10. And then if you go to the non-conference, they're beating postseason teams. They beat a 5 seed. Let's move on because that's gonna get a lot of energy out of me. Underdogs, real quick. It scares me, and I hope it should scare all of you guys. Sometimes we just kind of know, right? It scares me when too many people in the college basketball landscape look at a 12 or an 11 and they go, yeah, they're gonna do it. It's happening with VCU right now. They're playing a number 6 BYU. It's happening with whoever the hell Michigan is playing. Do you know right offhand?
No, I don't.
UC San Diego.
Okay.
I'm with you. I was high on UC San Diego when I believe shout out to Kevin Kelly. I believe it was Kevin Kelly or Will Despart brought it up. Cool. I've watched too much of the college basketball landscape say that UC San Diego and VCU are going to win. BYU and Michigan heard that. Those are usually the situations that when you talk to those coaches, I didn't have to say much. They watch the entire world pick a 12 over a 5. It wouldn't shock me if UC San Diego gets bullied off the floor.
Right. Especially you look at Michigan, Dusty May, he was just at Florida Atlantic. So he knows, like, hey, good mid-major team, like, we got to be, like, on our A game. And I know another trendy pick is Colorado State over Memphis because of how well Colorado State plays and kind of some of the ups and downs of Memphis, of the close losses and not a good American Athletic Conference. So that's another trendy pitch. It's going to be a fun game. Hate that it's two mid majors playing each other in that spot, but it should be a fun game and see how they go. But every year, as far as the sleeper or the underdog, it's always kind of like, I feel like it's always the team you don't like expect. It's like that 13 seed.
It's gonna be Robert Morris beating Alabama. It's gonna be something crazy.
It's gonna be Omaha over St. John's, right? Get the trash bins out. Get the trash bins out for Omaha.
I would be sick to my stomach. I do have one for you though, and I do want to know how you feel about it. Okay. How do you feel about High Point over Purdue?
Well, Purdue, as we know, as kind of, struggled a little bit in some of these games. I mean, I don't hate it. I would definitely pick that over maybe some other games. I feel like that's maybe more likely than Michigan or BYU losing. So I don't hate that.
Grand Canyon against Maryland is going to be a good game. I got Maryland still pulling that one out, but that one's going to be a good game. Shout out to Neko Obiazu and Alyssa Durazo-Frescas for playing in the 4th straight NCAA tournament. That's tough, dog. That's super tough. Anything else from first round or first 4 that you like? I do like the fact that they're making San Diego State and North Carolina kind of duke it out. I told my dad I didn't think ever that I would be rooting for North Carolina growing up a Duke fan, but if I'm Boise State, come on now. There's no way you let that
4th, and I'm behind Ohio State and Indiana.
I'm mad that you just told me that.
Yeah,
I thought maybe they were second. We were honestly, aren't they playing in the college basketball crown?
Boise State.
Yeah. Watch out.
Tyson.
I don't know where they are. Say it.
Tyson Degenhard.
I was gonna say
out.
it. How many games does he need to win? 4?
I think it's 32.
So we got 5, I think.
So yeah,
that'll be first. It's the first 2 rounds and quarterfinals.
No, I think it's only 16 teams actually. I think.
Is it? So that would be
So
that would have been 4, right?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. We are in Vegas. If you guys want to go ahead and put some money on it, I don't know. Might want to do it. But let's go ahead and move on really quick. The women's bracket. I have 2 things to mention. The first thing, USC versus UConn. I'm watching the brackets be unveiled, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay. Not gonna lie, UCLA having the top overall seed. Maybe it's the way I was raised and the way I just hate those 2 colors. It didn't make sense to me. I know the way the season started. I watched that team lose. It's the Boise State effect. It's literally the Boise State effect. I watched that team lose 2 times during the regular season to USC. I know they won the conference tournament. That's clearly how highly they value that conference, right? But I watched them lose 2 times during the regular season to a team that eventually you also named a 1. Maybe that's the reason why they gave them. And now, again, I'm not arguing that they shouldn't have been a 1 because of what I just said. You can argue they're a 1. They're the number 1. They're the overall number 1. How, when the team that they lost to twice is also a number 1? All right, cool. Never mind. Anywho, I'm watching everything get unveiled. We get to the last portion of the bracket, and they said we're trying to figure out the battle of number 1, whether it's UConn or USC. I knew I hadn't heard USC. I sat there and said, we haven't heard UConn yet. If I'm UConn, if I'm USC, I'm pissed. Why are we in the same side? Why are we on the same quadrant? Why? We just played in the Final Four. We played a game earlier this year. Why? Why would you want us to play before? Anyway, those are my only 2 gripes that I have: Boise State and the fact that UConn and USC are in the same quadrant.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think. I mean, they want some buzz before the Final Four, but
it's gonna create its own.
It is, but yeah, I think
do you remember a boring March Madness besides when UConn won their first one?
Not really. No, never.
Nobody can think of one.
No. Anyway, we'll see how that plays out.
You got anything that stood out to you? Because my other point is that the bracket itself is stacked. I'm gonna go out on a limb right now and say that these Sweet 16 games in the women's conference or in the women's NCAA tournament are going to be the best collection of games that we've had in the last 15 years. That's my hot take.
I agree with that. I think so too. I mean, just the top of women's college basketball. You have your Carolinas and UCLA's and SCs, right? But that second, third tier is gotten deeper. It's gotten better, and no longer is there a UConn type team or a Tennessee type team as a number one can roll to an easy Final Four. That's way past us now. So you're right. I mean, it's look at. I mean, you could get a LSU NC State Sweet 16 game. Get a Oklahoma and Iowa versus UConn in a Sweet 16 game. You get a Texas and Tennessee or Ohio State in a Sweet 16. Notre Dame and the TCU in a Sweet 16 game.
I'm tuning in for that.
Yeah. Well, we get a Duke North Carolina Sweet 16 game, South Carolina and Maryland or Alabama, right? And it just those are going to be there's going to be some great games, and you got to there are probably going to be some upsets.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, that's what I was doing really quick. I'm scrolling through the first round, and I'm just looking at some lower seeds that I like, right? I think GCU, it's only so much you can do, right?
Yeah.
I think this is similar to UNLV when they got hosed, right? In terms of seeding. The third team may not be the issue. Seeing Baylor might be the issue, right? So I don't see them necessarily getting past Baylor, but when you keep scrolling, where am I at? I thought I saw somebody before that. Anyway, I do see Norfolk State. I do see Oregon. I do see Nebraska also. Those are just a couple of teams that I was looking at in terms of lower seeds that jump off the paper to me initially when I was paying attention to the season. And Oregon over Vanderbilt, that one is probably the one that's ringing in my ear the most. But it's a 7-10, so how big of an upset is that? I'm not really too sure. Speaking of upsets, I'm pretty sure Lindy LaRock was upset about not making the NCAA tournament. But I'm pretty sure that shifted really quick to what she said pretty much on the podium after the loss. She said, we're playing postseason basketball. Couldn't tell you which tournament, but we're playing. So I'm sure that whatever initial emotions that she had, let me not say I'm sure. I believe whatever initial emotions that she had probably came and went, because not long after, obviously, UNLV was a part of the first four out of this stacked tournament, which, by the way, obviously I see spots for them, right? But I definitely see a couple of moments where, even though this is a stacked tournament, I don't see a lot. I'm gonna keep it a bean. I don't see a lot, but I see some spots where it's like, I get it. This one could make sense for UNLV, but again, I covered the team. I went to the school. Maybe that's the angle I'm viewing it from. But UNLV was a part of the first four. By the way, San Diego State is a lone representative for the Mountain West. Talk about pressure. You're not only defending, or you're not only solely representing your campus, yourselves, obviously. The conference is dependent on that, right? We seen UNR do it a while back with the Martin twins and Jordan Caroline. We seen the Lady Rebels do it, right? So we know what pressure that kind of comes with. But being one of the first four out ensures that, as long as they accept the bid, the invitation rather, that the teams that are the first four out would be guaranteed a spot in the women's basketball invitational tournament, and B, they will be promised one of the top four seeds. Right? Makes sense. Lindy already said it. She said what she was going to do. They've accepted that invitation. They are the number 2 seed in the WBIT. It's a field of 32. You kind of just talked about it a second ago in terms of these smaller, these other postseason tournaments that have smaller brackets. By the way, for everybody asking for the tournament to be bigger, no. Call me what you want. I told you, Alex, this is going to be my favorite part of just getting older. Yes, this is me being the get off my lawn guy. Yes, leave it alone. I was pissed when the first word came around.
Yeah. I mean, my colleague Adam Hill here, he had a call about don't expand the NCAA tournament. I mean, we mentioned Indiana and Ohio State as for some of the first teams at Indiana and Ohio State declining bids to the NIT and the college basketball crown.
And that's why you got 18 wins.
14 and 20, Colorado is in the college basketball crown. They could win a championship and still have a losing record.
Meanwhile, I didn't hear the women's Colorado team. I don't even know what they were, but I was watching them earlier this season, and they didn't make the big dance, I don't believe, but I want to know what they made. Give me two. Are you looking it up?
I'm looking it up.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you go ahead and do that. UNLV, they will start their run in this WBIT. Again, as a number 2 seed, they will take on Hawaii on Thursday from the Cox Pavilion. They're hosting. I mentioned it before. They're a top 4 seed. They're hosting. It will be from the Cox Pavilion, 6:30 p.m. Let's see if Lindy LaRock can pick up her first postseason victory.
Right. Who are they playing? Oh, they're going to play. Oh, they're going to the WBIT.
That's what I was thinking.
They're going to play. Who is this? Southeastern Louisiana University.
That's another school that I'm very interested in.
Mm-hmm.
That's a team that did not make the NCAA tournament. That similar to Boise, similar to UNLV. I'm looking at like, okay, let them get in a roll, in a rhythm. They got to win what, 5 games? They could do it. 4 games, whatever they can do it. So we'll see what happens with that one. Again, I like UNLV's chances. I like Boise State's chances. UNLV 25-7, right? And again, when I was explaining to my dad kind of how this thing works, I highlighted to him that UNLV, the way that the conference was already talked about, I told my dad winning 3 conference championships in a row, in addition to the conference tournament title, that's another reason why this conference is viewed the way that it's viewed. UNLV has not only won the conference the past 4 seasons now in the regular season, and 3 seasons prior to this one in terms of the conference tournament title, but it's the way that they've done it. UNLV has had 2 seasons, if I recall correctly, where they didn't lose a conference game. It was like 1 over a 50-game span. It was something crazy, right? Then it was 2 over like a 52-game span. It was insane. Anywho, UNLV goes 25-7. UNLV goes 16-2 in the conference. It loses its first conference game of the year, or its first conference game, to San Diego State on the road in buzzer-beating fashion. You get bounced from the tournament by San Diego State. So 2 of 3 of your losses, 2 of your 3 conference losses this season came to the same team. I always do this. Where did that team go? I said it before about the Packers, right? When the Packers lost to Arizona in the postseason, I was like, you know what? Things happen. Who cares? Whatever. It depends on what Cam Newton and the Panthers do to them next week. I think Cam Newton and them beat them 43-8. I say all of that to say what happened with the San Diego State Aztecs after they beat UNLV. They went and won it all. So based on UNLV dominating the conference, but losing 2 of its 3 games against the Aztecs, the NCAA and the selection committee essentially said that's the best team in the Mountain West. Not the team that's won the conference 4 straight seasons. Not the team that's been the Mountain West representative for the last, I know it's been one of the representatives 2 seasons ago, but been a Mountain West representative for 3 straight seasons. Lindy said something that I don't typically agree with in sports. Lindy said a phrase that was benefit of the doubt. And we know sports is a what have you done for me lately type of league. Well, I just told you what they did lately. They went 25-7, 16-2, and were the top seed in the conference. If I'm Lindy LaRock, yeah, I agree with her. We had a case somewhere to be in that tournament. Keep him. Oh, and let's go to the non-conference for a split second. I'm going to go back to that week in December. You go play Baylor, who's a tournament team. You go and play DePaul, who you actually beat, right? Big win for you. It was a win that you needed. It's a Big East win. You get that victory. You lose to Northwestern. We kind of saw the way that one played out. Not a good loss, obviously, right? Considering that the game was kind of in hand. But it's a 9-18 team. Why did I just blank? From the Big Ten. Am I blanking? It is the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Big Ten. I'm like college football. Don't fail me. Even with that, we can mention the earlier losses, the 30-point loss to Oklahoma, which was a number 9 team in the country at the time. And then you have Arizona as well, which you played on the road, took them down to the last couple of minutes as well. Still, none of them qualify as a bad loss. I mentioned that Northwestern loss being a bad loss to me because A, I watched the game. B, I know how the Lady Rebels feel about it. C, they ended up being 9-18. It's not a good team. They won 2 games, I believe, in their conference. But it's the Big Ten. So it doesn't register as a bad loss, right? If I'm the Lady Rebels and Lindy LaRock, we're focused on Thursday. Boy, I got something to prove.
Oh, yeah. And every year, you know, you see it by their seeding, right? A 13 and then a 12 and then an 11, right? That's even if, you know, that what they had done in the past wasn't that they don't get that benefit of the doubt, that they still have to prove themselves every year. And this will be a time where they can prove themselves. If they were to win this tournament, that would, you know, go, that'd be obviously a huge accomplishment for that program to add that. And you mentioned it. I'm sure that'll, you know, won't matter at all again next year. And Lindy, she'll schedule, you know, some more Big 12 teams and a Big 10 team, a Big East team.
USC, I don't know.
Someone, South Carolina, UCLA, Stanford. I mean, she'll, you know, play them all. And she absolutely deserves that credit for scheduling tough teams to get them ready for, you know, what you got to do. And when you're in that position that you're in, it's tough reality, but the margin of error is a lot thinner, and you don't get that benefit of the doubt unlike a 15-loss SEC team.
I got 2 quotes for you after the loss to Oklahoma that Lindy told me. She was going through the stat sheet, and she was like, yeah, guys, the game turned out how it turned out, whatever, yada, yada, yada. She paused. She said, I don't think we're 30 points worse than them, regardless of what you guys just saw. And it stood out to me. I asked her a question a second after that. It was basically like, this team has been to the tournament 3 straight years, lost to XYZ. Is the answer to just keep scheduling these games? As I'm talking, Lindy's nodding her head. As soon as I said, is the answer to keep scheduling these games, she started shaking her head. No. I'm thinking, okay, are we going somewhere else? She said, I'm not taking them off the schedule. I said, this is a psychopath that you guys are dealing with. She's like, Doug, we're here now. Like she said, this is now the standard. So freshmen that come in, yeah, you have a road trip to Arizona. You have to play a top 10 team at home. This is what we're doing. You're playing 2 of 3 games against Sweet 16 teams in December. One of them, you're going to Baylor. Like she said, now my freshmen have seen it. Now my sophomore have seen it. Now by next year, junior year, you didn't have 2 years of playing against top competition, making it to an NCAA tournament. Now a WBIT. Who knows what the ceiling really could be for that program next season, right? Just some things that kind of crossed my mind. I'll tell you what. We could shave off minutes when we get to the trade deadline in hockey. And we can shave off minutes. We got 45 minutes on the NFL all season. I don't feel like we should shave off minutes there. What do you think?
We don't have to. No.
I got 20 minutes on the A's at the end. We could shave off there. We're gonna shave a little bit off of the NHL one, and then I'll let you answer this really quick as we're producing live on air. Are we shaving minutes off of the 45-minute NFL conversation, or are we shaving time off of the A's at the end of the show?
Let's shave a little bit off the NFL.
A little bit off the NFL.
Yeah.
Cool. Reason why we're shaving a little bit off the NFL is because I saw Will Despart post Morgan Freeman was about 2 chairs from him, and then you posted it. And I was like, where the hell are these gentlemen? And then I realized that you guys were covering NASCAR this weekend. Obviously, you're in the building. Will isn't. I need a full breakdown, brother.
Long weekend, fun weekend. We glad this Sunday was sunny and no weather issues. We had some rain that stopped and started the truck race. It canceled one of the races at the dirt track, but all in all, a good weekend. The winner on Sunday was Josh Berry, driving for the Wood Brothers legendary NASCAR team. They've had a lot of Hall of Famers drive for them in the past. They've been around since 1950. The Wood Brothers. They're a legendary NASCAR team. Josh Berry has an interesting story. He's 34 years old, but he's in his second full-time season in the Cup Series, which is not how things usually go in NASCAR. Usually, once you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you get a full-time ride in the developmental series, and by like 24 at the oldest, you're in the Cup Series. You get brought up to the Cup Series at a very young age. So a little bit on Josh Berry's story. He was racing local short tracks in North Carolina. This is a long time ago. He was a bank teller, and he's racing online on iRacing, the virtual racing, and he becomes friends virtually with Dale Earnhardt Jr., NASCAR Hall of Famer. So he moves out to
the reason why I watch NASCAR, by the way.
Yeah. He has a great podcast and a great podcast company that Dale Earnhardt Jr. Yeah, he. I don't know. well, now you know. I'll tell you more about that later. But a ton of great podcasts on there. Great interviewer, Dale Jr. is. But anyway, he quits this bank teller job, moves to North Carolina, runs on the local short track scene, wins some track championships, wins some national championships, and then once he's in his 30s, then he gets up his shot in NASCAR, and he's an older guy as far as getting his shot at NASCAR, and he's one of these guys that doesn't have the sponsorship or the backing like some of these younger kids do have, so you kind of have to fight for that sponsorship, right? He when he won his first race, it was only in a season when he was a part-time driver. He didn't have a full-time ride. Wow. So, but he worked his way up and went to the Cup Series with Stewart Haas Racing last year, and then in the middle of that season, they're like, we're shutting down at the end there. All 4 cars, we're shutting down, we're selling it, and it's like, all right, where's he going to go now? And he went to the Wood Brothers, and 5th race of the year is a winner, and has his first win at 34 years old, and he's locked into the playoffs.
This just goes to show we talk. First of all, that's why we love sport and type of story, right? I'll do this really quick. I don't often like to do it, but I had a conversation with Brian Salmon a couple of years ago, right? And I forgot what we were talking about, and he was asking me how the company was, and I was giving him little details on the company. And middle of the conversation, he was like, "How old are you?" I was like, "I'm 28." He was like, "Damn, you're young." And in the back of my mind, I was like, "Excuse me." I've been building this company for 4 years. Like in the back of my mind, I'm like, it should have popped by now. With all due respect, like we have this conversation behind the scenes all the time. We're in every room that everybody else is in. So we've popped from that perspective. But from the owner's perspective, nah, there's more popping to go. Like there's a lot more popping to go. But you always view it from that perspective, right? Brian Hurt 28 and was like, dog, you have the world in the palm of your hands. You're gonna figure this out. Let Josh Berry, that was his name, correct?
Yeah.
Josh Berry, let him be a proven example of what it is to persevere. Again, shout out to you, shout out to Will Despard. I've seen a lot of coverage from you guys over the weekend. Weren't we talking about something else before the show started? But maybe we'll open the third hour with that, because we are into the second hour of the Talk That Talk radio show. Again, this is your Monday installment. That's Alex. I'm Terrell. He's going on about NASCAR. He was at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway this past weekend. You kind of talked about it a second ago, dealt with some weather. Get well soon to Markel Collins. Markel's dealing with the flu. Markel is sick because Markel's not working. So that's Markel sick. Markel doesn't feel good if that happens. So yeah, man, I'll let you wrap up NASCAR talk, and then we got maybe 30 on hockey.
Yeah. Well, it was well, I want to give out some shout outs from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Two guys, Chris Powell, the track president, he's retiring after 26 years of being the track president. He's been there, since as long as there's been cup racing there at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He's been out there running the track and making it a great facility. They were able to secure a second NASCAR date. They host so many other events. Aside from racing, they have the EDC, obviously, and that's something he talked about, like hosting EDC, but also setting up shop to where it's if medical attention is needed. He had a press conference before the race and talked about his accomplishments. He was proud of that, of making sure it's a safe place out there. If someone needs medical attention, they don't need to drive out 20-30 minutes for an ambulance, that they could get things suited up there. And also Las Vegas Motor Speedway was ahead of its time. We see now there's so many racetracks that are upgrading their garage areas to get fans to get up close and personal to watch the teams work on their cars and see the drivers talking with the crew and all that. And that's just happening now within the past few years. When Las Vegas Motor Speedway in 2007 opened the Neon Garage, where it's become this hub where concerts and food and drink and victory lanes in there. You could watch the winners celebrate. You could go and watch all the guys work on their cars on them. So shout out to him for that. And also shout out to Jeff Motley, who's the vice president of communications and public relations there. He's stepping away to pursue another role in the Las Vegas sports scene. So he'll still be around doing some big events there that aren't just racing. But special shout out to Jeff, because I met Jeff at a mentorship program. He was my mentor during an LVCVA.
I gotta lay off the applause, but that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, he was my mentor at the at LVCVA mentorship program a couple of years ago, I think my freshman or sophomore year, and I was able to get out there and work at the Speedway under Jeff. And he, as I transitioned this role at the RJ and covering motorsports, he's always made sure to take care of me as far as helping get some great racing stories out there for the week. So want to give a shout out to him and thank him for all he's done for me.
And nothing beats being in this field and seeing somebody that recognizes you from your school days, right?
Yeah.
Like nothing beats that, because it's like, and that's the blessing, because me and David Miniman was actually walking into USA basketball practice one day. He kind of looked over his shoulder and he kind of did a double take, and I was like, "Told you." I was so, bro. I met him in 11th grade, maybe 12th grade.
Mhm.
I was adamant about that, dog.
Mhm.
I told you. Speaking of being adamant, man, I'm back in a good space in terms of the Vegas Golden Knights. So these back-to-back losses, don't panic, guys. I know
Mhm.
it's back-to-back losses, but most recently it was a 3-0 loss. The fourth time that Vegas was shut out this season. On the road in Detroit against the Red Wings. The team went 1-2-1 on the road trip. I could give my opinion about the team if you want me to first, or did you want to go first? How you want to do this?
Go ahead. I didn't watch too many of the games at the track this week. Yeah.
So it's not very many times that this Vegas offense is going to go cold.
Mm-hmm.
So even in the moments that it does go cold, I'm not. This job is funny because you got to watch your words. I'm not similar to Bruce Cassidy in this regard, but I lean on what Bruce Cassidy says in moments like these, right? And there have been times that this team has been shut out earlier this season, at least one, where I watched the game and I was talking to somebody who's a Vegas Viva, and I was like, I'm not worried. Like I get it. I get what it looked like or what the scoreboard says, but anybody that watched the game, sometimes you play great goalie play, sometimes you miss the mark, sometimes it's literally a game of inches, right? And this team, and I said it earlier this season, I believe the opener was 8-4 against Colorado. I might have been in the building actually. 8-4 against Colorado. That's how I know all my days are merging together. I don't know where I'm at anymore. But I think it was 8-4. And then they go on a run where they're scoring like crazy, right? Even in losses, they're putting up 4 goals. I even said it. I said, if the calendar turns and we get to 2025 and this team's offense is steady like this, they'll be fine. The team just needs to not have 6 and 7 goals being given up the other way, right? So in this 3-0 shutout, and again, even in shout out to Isaiah Torres, who covers the Golden Knights. And doing my research about the game, we're about to get to the trade deadline in a second, but they had somebody that was newly acquired in between the pipes. That's just one of those moments where you run into the storyline. You ran into the storyline. That was the storyline for Detroit. It's a 3-0 loss. I don't think we're going to talk about this probably past yesterday, to be honest with you.
Right. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Just the hockey being a long season, just the ups and downs, and you just run on the road trip, run into a hot goalie or something like that. But yeah, the scoring, as long as they just continue to score and find consistency in scoring wherever that's from, if it's from the top line or if it's from the third or fourth lines, giving you some boost or creating chances, because that's been a thing at times when in the playoffs. Like I think about that time when the playoffs during COVID, when it was in the bubble, right? They went pretty cold there. So that was one, and that's happened, a couple other times the postseasons. But yeah, I mean, I just got to read on what I think you make a good point to make. Bruce Cassidy, like he's gonna, you could trust what he says. He's not gonna sugarcoat anything. He's gonna tell you how the team really is and how the guys really feel, and he'll keep it the same with the guys. And I feel like above all, he has a good read on the team, and they'll be as long as they're just generating chances, they'll be fine.
You just said it, right? I said the way it looks. You just used the exact the perfect hockey terminology. It's generating chances still, right? So first of all, I think this team is too talented to not generate chances. Like, it's going to generate chances on accident. Matter of fact, one of the conversations I had earlier this season with Bruce Cassidy when I was actually in the building was about Tomas Hertl and like him getting to his spots. And he kind of was like, yeah, sometimes I don't know like how he gets there, but he always finds a way to get there. Like, usually it's in a power play situation, but once he gets to his spot in the offensive zone, you don't want to put a goal on the board before it happens, but it's pretty much a sure thing when he gets to his spot. and when the spots rather. And again, Jack Eichel was in the middle of a historic season for this franchise, for his career, obviously as well. We still haven't mentioned the captain, which goes back to a conversation that we've had a long time ago, that we referenced Gil's Arena in terms of, does your best player have to be your leader? No, because sometimes your leader, I want something different from. Like, I don't need you to go out there and be the best player. I need you to go out there and make sure that the best player is being the best player. That's what I need from you more often than not. And I've said it before, as long as I see the tandem of Jack Eichel and Mark Stone out there, I feel good. We'll figure the rest out. And yeah, man, that's kind of the way that I feel despite this 1-2-1 record on this road trip. Vegas is 39-20-8 on the year. They still lead the Pacific Division with 86 points. Edmonton is right behind them with 82. LA is right behind them with 81. And then a little bit further behind, you're gonna find the Vancouver Canucks at 73 points. I don't know why. I know this isn't a I don't want to say a down year, but this isn't one of those years for Boston. I want to go to this game so bad on Thursday.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's a bad one, dog. I want to go bad. I won't be there because I'll be on the campus of UNLV at the Cox Pavilion. But Thursday night from the Fortress, 7 p.m., Bruce Cassidy against his former team in the Boston Bruins. It's the first home game for this franchise since March 9th. So show up to the Fortress and show out. You got anything else?
No, not on Golden Knights.
I didn't feel like you did, and I was like, go to the next topic, and I was like, but if he has something, he's gonna be like, but I have something. But let's go to the trade deadline for a brief moment before we move on to NFL news. Aiden Hill's extension.
Yeah.
Let's start there. I know it's not a trade, but remember, I gotta do an interview with Aiden because I don't want to seem like I'm taking shots at him because I've said it so many times. If there's any player that I want to not have a concern in the world, it's definitely my goalie. It's definitely my pitcher. It's definitely moments like that, right? Or people like that. I really don't want Aiden Hill to worry about anything else besides hockey. And this is not a shot at him, but athletes are human. And by the way, I'm not perfect either. I need to work on a better way to send this across. I'm actually working on that this next week. I need to figure out a better way to get my point across with this rather than being comparative. But I'm going to go back to Logan Thompson. When Logan was here, I liked this aspect of Logan's game where win, lose, or draw, Logan was at the Aces games, right? They always cheered for him. But there were some times where you could tell Logan read some of the things that y'all said. He heard some of the things that y'all said. And usually Logan would follow up a bad game where everybody trashed him. Maybe 2 bad games, maybe 3 bad games. I don't remember the last time he had 3 bad games in a row, but maybe a situation like that, Logan would come out and Logan would have one of those games. And what I've always told Vegas Golden Knight fans, this is not a shot at Aiden Hill, but it's something that I've noticed. Let's say Aiden has the same 3 bad games, and he's reading exactly what Logan Thompson was reading, except his name is in there. Unfortunately, I've seen 4 games turn into 5 games. 5 games possibly turn into 6. I've seen the Knights have to score 6 goals to make up for the 5 that was given up. Aiden Hill was the backbone for that. I don't know. Alex, this is a long show, 3 hours. Just give me some time. Aiden was the backbone of that Stanley Cup run. Vegas doesn't hoist that trophy without Aiden Hill. My point still stands. So for me, signing Aiden Hill for 6 years is a good thing. I don't ever want him to worry about a contract. I want him to delete his social media sometimes. But at the same time, too, Vegas got on Robin Lehner for being the exact same way. I don't want to be that guy, but you guys wasn't as gentle with Robin. maybe I'm wrong for bringing it up, but I think signing him and making sure that his security, that obviously trades can happen, but I'm secured. That's now in the back of my mind. I can go out there and focus on winning hockey games.
Right. There's a in all sports, there's a different when your coach or organization backs you up, gives you that security. That's something that it's one of those intangibles that people talk about, right? And I know there was I don't go back to like the Marc-Andre Fleury, that very first extension he got. Some people are like, oh man, they gave him, shouldn't have given that extension right after that first year. Should have let the contract play out, right? And you talk about Leonard, right? And maybe some people were still upset over Fleury, right? And they were kind of taking it out at him, and right, like he was they became the guy after Fleury, right? So they're taking it out on him. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, right? You're whatever it is, you're a start pitcher, your quarterback, your whoever your captain is, right? You just want to show that there's always, that whoever that guy is for that team, that you want to give that support and back up and kind of be that help the team kind of, rally around that person too.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely with you. In addition to that, I think Vegas it's just fun watching Vegas continue to grow into a sports town, because to see Vegas celebrate a championship and then business happens, right?
Yeah.
And then you bring back somebody like a Riley Smith. And all of Vegas is like, oh my God, we missed you. We're so glad you're back. So honestly, I think if Ryan Reeves were to return, I think it would be the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I think if geez Louise, dog.
Nate Schmidt.
I was gonna honestly, you know what's so funny? I was gonna say Eric Fiala.
Okay.
I was just gonna name some names in general, but Vegas, specifically over the Knights, we've kind of talked about it before. The community, it almost feels like the community is indebted to them, and Vegas, with all due respect to the Aces, right? I feel like the Golden Knights are that franchise that will have support no matter what. That's going to be the franchise, right? So to see Riley Smith come back, I think that was really, really dope. And shout out to organizations, A, that understand it, and B, Vegas, right? Going out and trying to acquire them, and places like New York, right? Shout out to the Rangers for understanding it as well and being like, why not? Send him back home. Send him back where he won a Stanley Cup. Now, if I'm just talking about other teams, right? Because that's what I want to talk about this trade deadline for. So earlier this season, I talked about it and I said Mikko Rantanen getting traded to me was like, okay, what was that? Especially with it being to Carolina, right? Because I kept talking about Carolina early in the year, and if you would listen to Vegas broadcast early in the year, they talk. And again, you guys know better than anybody. I'm opening up and I'm learning more and more about the entire association in terms of the National Hockey League. But early this season, everybody was telling me, well, Carolina's not going to finish where they're starting right now. I said, okay. And then I saw the trade for Mikko, and I was like, I think you guys are wrong, actually. And then he gets traded again, and he lands in Dallas. And the first thing I said was, Vegas can't avoid him, can they?
No, they can't avoid him. They can't those stars, Pete DeBoer, Just always going to be. It's going to be Western Conference, Vegas, Dallas, right?
Hey, man,
that's what it's going to be, right?
That's what it feels like, right? Mm-hmm. Biggest rival?
That has to be. I mean, at this point, right?
I feel like rivalries, you have to have the hate, even if both you guys suck. And I feel like postseason runs have made Dallas the rival. I feel like this franchise, I feel like this city as a whole hates San Jose.
Right, but they've fallen off. So I think
They're
that's
terrible.
So I think that's impacted that to where it's like, yeah, they're not.
Which is why I think that it's a true rivalry.
Yeah.
Let San Jose come into the Fortress and win.
Hmm.
Even in a down year, just the way that the fans will react. It doesn't matter. You guys have won 14 games. You hate them. Maybe it's only because of the early, obviously the division. But you talked about it before. This is a new franchise. This is still a fresh franchise. And even though they did fall off, when this team was trying to make a name for itself, when this franchise was trying to make a name for itself, it had to deal with San Jose at one point, right? So obviously Colorado's in there. I like Dallas in there as well. Everybody's gonna mention LA because it's LA, but I don't know, man. I get giddy over sports in a weird way. I do, but I'm over here like super geeked with the fact that Vegas, now that we're here, right? Like you just said a second ago, Dallas is a true rival. Like I'm tired of seeing you when it matters most. You bounced me from the postseason back and forth. Like that's what that finally has become. Last point that I have for the NHL trade deadline, Brad Marchand going to Florida. I saw that move and said, this might be one of those moves that, similar to the question I asked Ben Golliver when the NBA trade deadline kind of rolled around, shout out to Ben. This might be one of those moves that we were watching hockey in the end of April and May and early June, and we're gonna look and go, huh? He does play for them, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know what it yield. Matter of fact, what is Florida right now? Florida's 41-24-3. And you add a vet like Brad. I don't know, man. All I'm going to say is that these winning teams that win their first one or sniff their first one and then go for the gusto, kind of hard not to like it, right? Real quick, we're going to end with baseball, but we're about to hop into NFL offseason news. We got a good 35, maybe 40 minutes there. Headed into the third hour of the Talk That Talk radio show. We're at about an hour 42 right now. Again, guys, I'm Terrell. That's Alex. We're shooting this show from the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park here on Sunset, here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We've talked Kevin Kruger's firing. We've talked the women's basketball invitational tournament. Excuse me. We've talked the both NCAA tournaments, men and women's. We just wrapped up hockey talk with some trade deadline information and just things that stood out to us. And then, of course, we've talked Golden Knights as well. So we're going to talk NFL. We're going to talk Raiders on the back end of this conversation. And then we'll end with some baseball. But I don't know why the hell I flipped that paper when I'm not done. Yeah. But I have a list of transactions from every team, rather. And I have some written down. You want to just go through these and almost do it like a rapid fire?
Yeah, let's go through it.
So, do I have a coin on me? I hope I have a coin on me. The point of this show is to make it fun. Whatever. I have a camera cap. Mm-hmm. So, no, we're not doing that. That is going to be the heads.
Okay.
The back is going to be tails.
Okay.
What do you call it?
Tails.
I think you can see it.
It's tails.
It's tails?
It's tails, yeah.
You going first? I'm going first.
You go first.
Damn it. I didn't want to.
Okay.
All right, bet. So if we're doing this and we're doing rapid fire, I got Joey Bosa to the Bills. The rich get richer, plain and simple. I think what's funny is when a team tends to underperform and underachieve, you forget people like Tom Telesco did their job in LA, right? They did retain Khalil Mack in terms of the Chargers, but they lost Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa is going to a situation where he's going to be able to compete at least for an AFC championship, potentially a Super Bowl. What's going to happen is Joey Bosa if healthy, is going to be exactly in the same situation that Brad Marchand is going to be in with the Florida Panthers. We're going to look up come postseason time, end of December, early January, maybe mid-January. We're going to go, damn, we did let that be a fly under the radar offseason move during the offseason simply because the injuries have taken over Joey Bosa. A lot of people may not feel like he's the same guy. The problem is we have to remember who we're talking about, respectfully, right? And again, you guys know I don't mind getting political on this show. Joey Bosa, as well as his brother Nick Bosa, can play the hell out of some football, regardless of whether you feel like they know what they're talking about in terms of politics, right? Cool. Joey Bosa, if healthy, is going to make that pass rush a lot better.
Right. And you mentioned the veteran guy going to a new team. Maybe it's always a thing where they don't need to be the number one at that, right? The guy, right? That they could kind of ease into that role and put to whatever they need to do with that team and that defense, and you could get back to that elite level by just finding that confidence or just finding that fun with playing with a new organization and playing in that city.
Patriots are back? Question mark.
Patriots are back. I don't think so.
So Vrabel comes in, and obviously a lot of moves are being made, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I have to say, I thought about the Raiders not stripping the cupboard bare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't panic. If the Raiders did put out a box, and this is never mind, because this is gonna sound crazy.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, just for this analogy's purpose, if you don't raid the cupboard, but you take some things out, let's say you put all those canned goods that you don't want, even some that you do that you're on the fence about, you put it in the box. The Patriots came and picked up that damn box and just took it with them. The Patriots went and signed Mac Hollins, Austin Hooper, Caleb Von Chasen, Robert Spillane, and Marcus Epps. Those are all former Raiders.
Right.
Vrabel said, you guys didn't want to okay, I'll show you a thing or two. Spillane, hurt. Marcus Epps, hurt. Seeing what Mac Hollins did for Buffalo, hurt.
Patriots West East now, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Got to be something. It's either. So it doesn't matter. Oh damn. This is why I wanted to win the coin toss. I got Justin Fields to the Jets. I like the fact that young athletes nowadays are going with the familiarity portion of it. Justin Fields is too young to care about the history of the Jets, right? Is my guy Garrett over there or not? Garrett Wilson is over there? Cool. I know what we did in college. I know the synergy that we have. I'm going to take my chances. I'm going over there. I had to write down that timestamp because nothing else that I have to say is positive. Take that back. One thing. I'm going to give it up for Aaron Glenn. I like Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
Right? Problem is Aaron Glenn is a defensive coach. I don't know if Justin Fields is going to go to the Jets and grow. Granted, I'm going to give this caveat. I have no idea who their offensive coordinator is, who their quarterback coach is. Let me go do some research, and in a month, when I got some free time to look at the Jets coaching staff, I'll come in here and change my tune. As of now, the Jets have done nothing good for quarterbacks, and that's the last thing Justin Fields needs.
Right. I mean, and you mentioned that I can't imagine what maybe his confidence is like after the ups and downs of Chicago and how Pittsburgh went right and just get, maybe they are looking at that like, hey, Garrett Wilson's there. Let's get a guy as a coach or as the quarterback coach. Let's, build this around that connection. Let's get Justin Fields protected. Let's get him and Garrett Wilson in position where they could, have explosive plays, develop that chemistry now at the next level, and kind of lean into that as our identity on offense.
And I think we're out of the AFC East really quick, but I do want to highlight one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Miami Dolphins. I see you. This is what's interesting, because if you don't sign a big name, people think that you're not doing much in the offseason, except for Dallas. You guys really aren't doing much in the offseason, but we should be used to it. Bigger than that, I think a lot of people feel like if you don't sign a star running back, if you don't go out and make a trade for a quarterback, you bring in one of those loudmouth corners, your offseason has been whatever. What was the Dolphins' biggest issue this year?
It was health.
So what am I going to do if my quarterback can't stay healthy? I'm going to do what they did, and I'm going to go. Let me count these. 1, 2, 3, 4. They went and signed 4 linemen. Even if it doesn't work out, they're addressing the problem. Dallas. Anywho, this is yours. Great. DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens.
Man. Well, it's always kind of, get another maybe instance of the rich getting richer, right? You've given another instance kind of similar to the Joey Bosa signing, right? Just getting a guy when I saw it, I kind of nodded my head. It's like, okay, DeAndre Hopkins seems like a guy that could fit into that Baltimore locker room and could fit into that culture, right? Just giving Lamar Jackson another weapon, giving him another guy with a lot of experience, and just another guy on that team that could be a leader, right? Could just help just that team and that offense as a whole find that consistency that sometimes it's ups and downs, and that it doesn't kind of maybe show up all the time in the playoffs. I really like this move with what Baltimore did, getting able to sign him.
I don't have much to say about this one, so I'm super happy that you actually had this one. Remember that question I was going to ask Kevin Kruger that I regret right now?
Mm-hmm.
I know the answer for Baltimore, and the answer is yes. We have to win now.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins likens your chances to win. I do think, obviously, Zay Flowers being healthy next season is important. What's interesting is you would think that Derrick Henry is going to have a tougher second season because teams are going to understand a little bit more. Okay, Baltimore likes. And by the way, I think Baltimore showed 65% of what their full playbook could look like. Because of that, that's why I feel like typically in a situation where Derrick Henry would go into his second year with a team, whether it was Dallas, whether it was the Commanders, whether it was whoever, right? I thought maybe teams would catch on. That thought went out the window when he signed in Baltimore, because teams can never catch on when you have a quarterback that also runs like that. Now I'm getting an extra pass catcher. All right, man. All right. I got to break down Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. First of all, I'm going to give another round of applause really quick for Cincinnati, mainly because you figured it out. Plain and simple, right? So I remember 2 years ago and this is how you run an organization. I remember 2 years ago when they was it last season, when they let Joe Mixon walk.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Ooh, these boys are crazy." And then I watched him in Houston before he got hurt. I said, "Ooh, these boys are crazy." I watched the way they season went, and Alex, I'm gonna do it again. I said, "Boy, these dudes is crazy." And then these contracts came out for Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins, and I said, "Oh, I was just late to the party." They said, "We're gonna put our dollars into this offense." What drives this? What drives this offense? Well, you got to start with number 9. So let's get him sewn up. Let's get him sewn up, right? Okay. T. Higgins. Okay, we're going to franchise it. Okay, we're going to franchise it again. Jamar Chase. When I looked at those numbers come out, you know what it made me do? I got on Cincinnati a lot about the Marvin Lewis situation, right? That's why they let Jamar say whatever he said during the regular season. Jerry Jones, take notes. Jerry loves to say, or my dad loves to say it about Jerry. Oh, Jerry's going to pay Micah. Oh, Jerry's going to pay Dak. Oh, Jerry's going to pay CD. Then why are you doing this whole horse and ponies? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you putting on this whole circus for nothing? Your quarterback that you paid has told you, has said it even into the media, into those microphones, those 50 microphones in front of him every week, that your messages or interviews rather outside of the locker room, outside after games, hurts the locker room. Your quarterback said that. And you don't care. Jamar Chase said some things this season that had me like, oh, damn, he's out. What Cincinnati do? Off season comes. Sign here, Jamar. What is he going to do? Not sign it? I wish more organizations went by that route. We haven't paid him. He has every right to be pissed off. We're going to pay him. Imagine if Cincinnati went in front of the front office, went in front of a camera and was like, well, Jamar Chase needs to. Damn, my hamstring a little tight. Do you have anything on this one?
No.
Beautiful. Your next one, DK Metcalf to the Steelers.
Man. Well, who's the DK Metcalf Mason Rudolph combination? Is that going to run the league now?
That is hilarious.
But you know,
Russ hasn't signed yet, right?
No.
You gonna bring Russ back?
All right, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf duo
again.
Is the thing with that is, well, that's not going to solve all of Pittsburgh's issues. Getting one superstar wide receiver, you have, George Pickens and everything else. How much better is this offense gonna be from last year? I still see it's gonna have its ups and downs, and they're gonna look good when the defense is playing well, or look good when they play a bad team. But what else is there around them that they could have that stability or depth or success? If it works out, then yeah, it'll work out to be a great move. But I don't know if that fixes everything. That definitely doesn't bring them into Baltimore or Cincinnati's tier as far as that division and just trying to make the playoffs.
You mentioned George Pickens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I'm pretty sure you're on social just like I am. Mm-hmm. So you saw the memes and everything else, right, that came with it. For me, I talk a lot about Max Crosby, which we're going to get to into the second hour. Obviously, we're 2 minutes away from the second hour, or from the third hour, excuse me. We're going to get into Max Crosby in a second, but I talk about him being a Raider guy, right? Mm-hmm. Being somebody that if I'm in the front office with the Raiders, he's always going to be under contract. Like, he's not leaving. So he's a guy that fits the bill, right? Kind of the same way I feel about DK Metcalf when I seen him going to Pittsburgh. I said, with the way that he works out, with the way that I've said it before, I thought the pacifier mouthpiece, while it looked dope, he also would throw tantrums. And I was like, that's not going to age well. But that will to win and that fight that DK Metcalf always comes with, you're going to the Steel City? I said, oh, it matters. That's the guy that this offense follows. With all due respect to George Pickens, I think you're a little bit too much of a wild card. I may give you the keys and you may drive this mug off a cliff. Like, I don't really know where you're going with it. To ask you to be a number two and be productive, I think I might get more out of you like that anyway. So there's not the pressure of being the lead guy, right? I don't have to send you out there to go do these interviews if I don't want to. You have a DK Metcalf next to you that doesn't mind fielding those questions, right? And then it boils down to your point. Who the hell is throwing him the football? I got Derek Stingley Jr.'s deal. First of all, congratulations to him, right? What's funny is I don't remember if it was Ryan Clark, if it was it was Chad Ochocinco. Shout out to Chad Ochocinco. Chad was talking to Rashad Bateman on Nightcap a couple of weeks ago, and a couple months ago now at this point. And he was talking about cornerbacks that were tough to play against. Of course, he mentioned PS2, which I think was going to be everybody's probably overall answer now when you think about annoying corners. Sauce Gardner is probably going to come up in certain circles. Ocho was like, "What about Stingley?" And Shaw was like, "Yeah, he's tough to play against too." And I forgot exactly what he said. But I thought about it, and I was like, I watch a lot of Houston football simply because I like CJ Stroud. I've mentioned that before. I seen this deal, and I was like, there may be some people in Jacksonville that may be looking at this deal, and they're like, okay, Derek Stingley got this deal. Derek Stingley is one of them. Again, if healthy, and this is one of them situations, I talked about it before. You were on campus. I don't know if you covered him when he was there. Did you cover Jericho Flowers?
I think so. Yeah.
So you talked to Jericho Flowers. Jericho Flowers acts like a cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
Just acts like it. I covered Jericho also when he played for the Vegas Nighthawks. That's Jericho. That's the cornerback that you need. If Stingley talked more, this deal wouldn't be a shock to people. This man can play. This man is a cornerback one. And again, his head coach is D'Amico Ryans. So you're in a situation where even though you have a CJ Stroud, you have a coach that doesn't mind winning a game 20-13. Might prefer it. I don't know, man. I like him in this situation. I'm not going to lie to you. I wanted this next topic, damn it. Only because I have one thing to say only.
Okay.
But you got Najee Harris to the LA Chargers.
I like that. I like that move. I like bring him in the fold into that offense. Yeah, I think it's a good move for LA.
Herbert benefits from it, obviously, right? I only had one thing to say about it, and this wasn't necessarily one of the bigger names. No disrespect to Najee, right? He bought the hell out when he came here to Vegas. But that was the angle that I wanted to take. I've said this before. If you're not going to go out and get Bo Nix, right? Last year, I know you don't really have a say-so in it, but in the back of my mind, I always say you can't let them get him. Week 11, 12, people started to say, hey, what about Najee to the Raiders? What about Najee? What about Najee next year? And then Najee carves up the Raiders. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, you're going to go out and get Najee, right? Nope. You got to see him 2 times.
Yeah.
That was my only angle. You went from not only getting carved up from Najee or by Najee. And by the way, there were some things that was said during the season that made me think Najee wanted to be in Vegas as well. Take it for whatever you will. There were some things that was said that had me thinking he's like, hey, this is an audition for Vegas. I might want to be here. To let him go to LA is kind of sickening. Wait, so the next was mine. I get Debo to the Commanders. Shout out to the Commanders for doing what they need to do to make sure Jaden Daniels is surrounded by enough weapons, right? I like the re-signing of Zach Ertz because you keep a vet around him, right? Somebody that's going to throw an arm around him. And by the way, you also saw a couple times last season where, especially in the postseason, where when things got tough, you saw Jaden. Where's 86? Right over the top. Got me a good 4 yards, but I got them off my neck. Like I need a little breathing room. You keep Zach Ertz. You already know what Terry McLaurin is, and then you bring in Deebo Samuel, somebody that doesn't mind being physical. With a moment that I thought, or a part of the game that I thought wasn't highlighted enough in terms of Washington. They have Brian Robinson Jr. and they have Austin Eckler. Now you get a receiver similar to a DK Metcalf that will block for you. Not saying Terry won't, because we know Terry will go down there and block for you. Deebo is named Deebo for a reason. Deebo doesn't mind getting in there. Deebo will start in the backfield and block for you. So that's what I'm excited about. I feel like I'm being the pro con guy on all of these signings, but I think that's what the offseason is for. The con is, if I'm Washington, with all due respect to Deebo, I know exactly what you did, and this could ruin the relationship. And I'm with it. I'm wholeheartedly behind what I'm about to say. Deebo seems like a guy that if the first impression goes wrong, you lost him. I would absolutely take that risk. I would look Deebo Samuel in his face, and I would let him know we have a good thing going with this young locker room. You leave whatever the tantrums and everything else that was in Frisco. Don't come change the temperature of my locker room.
That's a good point. I feel like everything went so well, right? And with Washington last year, and those guys just buy into that culture and just rallying around Jaden. That's, you gotta. That's the risk, right? With whatever you bring in, whoever you add in, if you have an established culture, an established core of just, if one thing goes wrong, if there's a slump, then it's like could it snowball, and then could it spread to the rest of the locker room? Because we've seen it, guys that are throw the tantrum or be outspoken and kind of derail any good momentum that team has.
In star players' cases, I almost said star receivers, but in star players' cases, let's look at a couple of them. LaShawn McCoy, he was a star in Philly. When he left Philly, you saw it kind of get dialed back a little bit. Odell Beckham Jr., similar too, right? What about Ndamukong Suh? Kind of dialed it back a little bit, right? What I'm noticing is they do it with the team that they do it with their first team. Maybe their second team. That's all they know.
Yeah.
Once they realize, damn, I did all of that, and they shipped me somewhere else. In Deebo's case, he asked for it, but it happened. Then you see DK get traded. Then you see Cooper Kupp get released. Then you see Devontae Adams on his third team in 2 seasons. Like, you start to see these different movements around the league, and you go, oh, this can happen. And I think it makes you dial it back a little bit. So I do think Deebo comes in and Deebo buys in the same way everybody else does. I still think as Dan Quinn, I still go in there and make that statement. Don't come change the temperature of my locker room. So I have another one written down. No disrespect to Najee Harris. I don't know how much other people watch this person, because this is probably a pride and joy of Cerritos College. But I have DJ Reed to the Detroit Lions. Technically, this is yours. If you need me to, I can take this one, and then you can piggyback off of it. But then you got to take 2 in a row. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I feel like we're betting shots right now.
Okay.
Like, this is crazy. But I like DJ Reed to the Lions because I didn't like. Let me start with this. I did not like the way DJ Reed ended his New York Jet tenure. Right. First of all, I think everybody deserves a pass from the way that Jet tenure ended, because I don't think nobody expected that. Right. Look at Sauce Gardner when they got Aaron Rodgers, and then look at him at the end of the season. It was like, fam, not gonna happen. The funniest thing I seen as the season was winding down, so I forgot, maybe it was T. Higgins, and he was like, pay that man. And somebody was like, yeah, the Jets need to do it. Like, you need to tell him to come here. He was like, nah, why would I do that? Or I think the exact quote was, I'm not telling him that. I said, whoa, like, this is somebody that you're betting on in terms of Sauce Gardner, somebody that you're going to want as you move forward. DJ Reed kind of played along with that too. This was one of those Tyreek Hills. If I got on Tyreek Hill, I got to get on my guy, right? Somebody that I know, or knew rather. Me and DJ haven't talked in some time. Every time we see each other, it's all love. So it's not a dig at him. I didn't like, same way Tyreek Hill was like, I'm out of here. DJ Reed did the exact same thing. Difference is DJ Reed is no longer a New York Jet. So he meant what he said this particular time, and he bounced. I didn't like that. I have to preface it with that. But I do want to also go and now address the actual move. I think we've done a great job on this show of not cursing. I'm going to get one off. What a fucking move, dog. The only thing that scares me about this is him and Amik are short. It's the only thing that bothers me. Amik Robertson is relatively smaller, similar to DJ Reed. But if you want somebody that's physical, DJ Reed is that. If you want somebody that can play the slot, DJ Reed is that. If you want somebody that's all over slants because of how physical he is, that's DJ Reed. You want somebody to return your kicks, that's DJ Reed. You're sending him to be coached by Dan Campbell? I'm gonna be honest, D. And I think he's already ascending. I think he hits his peak a little earlier than he should. So you have two straight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like both of these for you. Okay. You got Davante Adams to the Rams.
You know,
I laughed because I was like, no Matthew Stafford. Damn, and Matthew Stafford. Okay.
Right. Man, I mean, what a few years that Davante Adams has had, right? And I think you know, he's always kind of talked about playing with his guys and having that relationship with Derek and Aaron Rodgers, and maybe with that you get a little too comfortable, right? You kind of, you know, maybe whatever that may be, right? Maybe you just kind of, I don't know where I was going to go with that, but like you're just, you know, you have that relationship with that guy and you let that overcome challenges with the team, or you let that overcome maybe some things you aren't doing. If you know, not doing that true self-reflection, maybe in that case. So I think getting out of that, what the circumstances have been, right, and getting to a true winner and getting to guys a good organization with a great coach.
You may have been going to the point of because we mentioned Matthew Stafford for a quick second.
Yeah.
So you played with Aaron Rodgers. You wanted to obviously go and play with Derek Carr. You had 2 seasons, essentially, maybe a season and a half of quarterback switching. Like you had a lot of that, right? Maybe the point that you were going to make, or you were trying to get to, is you're going to a situation where, yes, you had to say so, obviously, right? You signed as a free agent, but did they trade Davante? No, they signed him as a free agent, I believe. Yeah. So you had to say so in this one. But Matthew Stafford, to my knowledge, is somebody that you've only known as a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
You have hell of knowledge of him because of your history in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you need to be in a situation where it's not like you're in a situation where you feel like Matthew Stafford is not a good quarterback. So, like you said, maybe you need to be away from the guys that you're familiar with. Maybe you need to be around somebody new.
You need that new challenge to grow or develop your skills or adjust to what you need to adjust to, and going in you know, place like the Rams where you could see the game in a new light, maybe with Sean McVay, maybe, right, and Puka and all the guys that they have. So I think it's good. I think I'm excited to see how Davante does in this new role. I think it'd be a spot where, you know, we've talked about it, you know, with some of these other guys, veteran guys that are established, that are stars, and go into that new place or making that another big change is kind of be what they needed to get that recharge and get out of that, maybe in Davante's case, that rut of not winning and not playing meaningful football games to give you that new boost that you need.
And obviously you just mentioned Puka, right? I think the best point that you mentioned is the point that I didn't mention, which is Sean McVay.
Yeah.
Like, you're in a situation where you're gonna get open. Like, and Davante proved here, if you don't scheme me open, 9 times out of 10, I can find a way to get open still. Like, right, we didn't see Davante win games on improvised plays. So, second one for you, I noticed that you didn't mention Cooper Kupp's name because he's no longer a Ram.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp, along with you get a two-parter as your second one, and then we both got one apiece after this. You have Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold to the Seattle. Try to maybe put that down a little bit.
Okay,
There we go. We have Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold to the Seahawks.
Okay, we'll see how.
I'm mad you started by smacking your team.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like,
what does this even mean, y'all? Like,
right.
Does it even matter?
Right, like, is Sam Darnold was he just a product of Kevin O'Connell and that offense? How good is Sam Darnold? And it seems that Seattle they believe he can maybe be that guy or be that guy where he's a top half quarterback, and if we give him a guy like Cooper Kupp and we give an offense around him that could play well and thrive and all that he can maybe match, not necessarily match, but get in that ballpark of what he was like in Minnesota. But I don't kind of obviously they had Geno Smith, and Geno Smith went to the Raiders, and I don't think right now it's not too much of a difference between Geno and Sam, but I think more, maybe Darnold was more a product of O'Connell and kind of just riding that high of being around those guys and all the talent they had there, that it's might be a little bit tougher to do what he did in Minnesota with Seattle right now.
You want to do Cooper Kupp now, or do you want me to address Sam real quick?
You could go to Sam.
Excuse me. I'm with you that when it's all said and done for Sam Darnold's career, he may look back to his time with Minnesota and he may sit there and go, that was, I don't want to say personal peak, but like that was like statistical peak, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm gonna challenge you with, yes, a college team. Don't yell at me. We've seen Sam Darnold with good coaching, period, though, right? We saw what he did at USC.
Mm-hmm.
We saw what he did with the Niners, right? And again, we saw what they've done with Brock Purdy. I'm not saying that these guys aren't good quarterbacks, but with the proper coaching, they look damn good. Josh Dobbs looked good in Frisco. That said, the other stops that we've seen Sam Darnold look horrific was the Jets that was led by Adam Gase and the Carolina Panthers that was led by, I dare any of you guys to figure it out. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only point. So if you trust the brass in Seattle, which I kind of do,
mm-hmm.
I think Sam would be, like you said, probably middle of I like the point that you said him and Geno probably aren't far off.
Yeah.
People are going to look at you and listen to what you just said, and they're going to be like, what? After what Sam did last year? Put him around what Geno had last year.
Yeah.
Alex is probably right. They're probably around the same person. You got the Cooper Kupp point, and then, like I said, we got two more.
Yeah. Well, I still like Cooper Kupp. I still think that he can be that, a high-end receiver, be a high production guy. But what does he look like? Kind of similar to Sam Darnold. What does he look like? Not around, Sean McVay and that offense, right? But I still believe in Cooper Kupp that healthy he could be, an elite receiver, and he still has a lot left, and I think he feels that way too. Might have something to prove, and might be playing like a man on a mission.
You tricked me.
Okay.
Because if we wouldn't have doubled up and I didn't take DJ to the Lions, I wouldn't have to talk about Aaron Rodgers right now.
Okay.
So you tricked me.
Okay.
I don't like that.
Right. That's what I did.
Now I'm angry. You did this on purpose. You can't even see the paperwork, but he did this. This is him. So whatever I say, blame him. I don't want to do this. So I'm split in terms of how I feel about this. I seen a report. I believe Tom Pelissaro might have put it out. Maybe Jordan Schultz put it out. That obviously is down to three teams. It's the Jets, or excuse me, I lied. It's the Giants. Why am I blanking? It's the Giants, the Steelers, and the Vikings, right? The the Vikings make all the most sense, right? Just in terms of just the way that he's set up to probably win. You have the weapons, and you probably have the best coaching. I'm not talking about head coaching per se, but just in terms of offensive schemes, you probably have the best situation in Minnesota. But you're in a dog of a division, right? It's gonna be a dogfight. I'm split on this because we had that conversation about asking your coach to walk away, right? I'm split on this because Aaron Rodgers, if these reports are true, has come out and has basically said and told his inner circle, if it's not the Vikings, he'll opt for retirement rather than the Steelers or Pittsburgh or the Giants. This is an example of one of our GOATs picking his way out, right? If it's not this team, I'm not going to do more damage to my legacy probably than good by going here. Nobody knows his career better than him, right? I think Pittsburgh would be interesting. Unfortunately, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to end up with the New York Giants. I think proximity matters. I think the Jets was interesting. If he felt like he could drag the Jets out of despair, I don't know that. What if Pittsburgh tells him no? Right? Like, what if this is taking a little too long and they go with Russell right now? And what if Minnesota, which all indications could be that Kevin O'Connell was leaning toward J.J. McCarthy like he was going to do last season? What if there's not a spot there either? Again, I could be wrong, but part of me feels like Aaron Rodgers is a little bit arrogant enough to say, I'm not going to necessarily look this season or look at last season and say that that's my last year in the NFL. I do think one thing, if I'm doing pros and cons, that would lend toward retirement, Aaron Rodgers looked like Aaron Rodgers in week 18. Last topic and I think we went about 40 minutes. So I think we've done pretty good or close to 40 minutes. You got the last one. You got the Dallas Cowboys as a whole. So figure it out. They did go and get Javonte Williams from Denver, and they did go and get Miles Sanders from Carolina.
The Cowboys.
I know, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, just look at them as a whole. Nothing they did puts them near or above Philly or Washington. So they're going to stick with their guys, whoever they have and whoever they have left. And first year of Brian Schottenheimer, the Shotty era at Dallas.
They're going to score 35 points a game, and they're going to give up 40.
They are. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, they'll probably be around that 8-9 win range, probably on the high end maybe, and they'll be in a lot of, be like one of those teams that's always in a close game and it's always high scoring, and they just can't come up with the stop, or they can't close out the game. So nothing with what Dallas did kind of, changes them or puts any confidence that they'll ascend or be much different from where they were when they were fully healthy.
Shout out to us, man.
Yeah.
40 minutes on the NFL offseason, just kind of rapid fire going through it. Let's talk Raiders really quick. My dad said, here we go in the comments, talk about the Cowboys. I could have left them off. So you let me know how you want me to do it next time. Going to the Raiders really quick. We have at least 10, 15 minutes on the Raiders. Excuse me. The extension for Max Crosby, 3 years, $106.5 million. I'm going to ask him for $1 next time I see him. Yeah, man, but I kind of said it before, man. Kind of hard to not root for a person like Max, right? Even if Max were to ever come out and be like, I want out of Vegas. What can you say about a person that kind of has put forth the resume that he's put forth? And obviously we know how we spoke of the word indebted earlier, right? In terms of fan bases. Max Crosby definitely has said before that he feels indebted to this franchise, and he's treated it as such. And he's rewarded with 3 additional years on his contract, right? I just said it before, north of $106 million. If I'm Vegas, I kind of mentioned it before. That's one guy. I mentioned Nate Hobbs a couple weeks before, who is now a Packer, right? Teaming up with Josh Jacobs. If I'm Max Crosby, if I'm the Raiders, or if I'm the Raiders and I'm looking at Max Crosby, that's one guy that I am never letting walk out these doors.
Exactly. I mean, I think he's wants to be a Raider, and I just think he's kind of, as you get in this new era, this if you want to call it a rebuild or rejuvenization or whatever of the Raiders, of fixing the program you kind of need, or the team and the organization, you have to start somewhere. And why not start with Max and keeping him as your guy, your leader, and just doing something to give him that confidence, and just reassuring him that, we're gonna take care of you with not only this, but take care of putting a winning product on the field.
Winning products start with the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned it a second ago. Geno Smith is now a Las Vegas Raider after the Raiders traded a 3rd-round pick for him. Geno Smith, man, we've seen it in moments. Another situation where we saw him in New York, right? Didn't get, or excuse me, well, saw him in New York 2 different times, but we saw him with the Jets. Came in super confident, right? You want your quarterback to be confident. Some would say cocky. I don't know that it matters. But came in, and again, like I said before, I refuse to really judge any quarterback that plays for the New York Jets. So came into the league and not necessarily the best situation, right? And then you're a New York Giant and you get thrust into a position where you're asked to go out there and start a game and break Eli Manning's Iron Man streak, right? And that also doesn't feel like you were necessarily put in a good position either, right? And then you see Geno Smith in a competent situation, situation in terms of Seattle. And then people look around and go, did Geno just win comeback player of the year? Did Geno just make it to a Pro Bowl? Like, is Geno Smith a good quarterback? And then you realize after he's in a good situation, damn, Geno's a good quarterback. Now, is Geno Smith a good quarterback when all things are right for him, i.e. a Brock Purdy, i.e. a Mark Sanchez? Maybe. But here's the thing. You're coming into a situation where you have potentially a generational tight end in Brock Bowers. You have Jacoby Myers, who we said all season long, even Devontae Adams even said it at one point. This is beyond a number 2. Like, he can line up right next to me. Like, this is what it is. So you do have a number 1, a talent with number 1 receiver potential. And then here's where I'm at. I said it last year when the Raiders got rid of Josh Jacobs. I said, I hope the Raiders are ready for games where Zamir White has 12 rushes for 26 yards. It's going to happen. Shout out to Zamir White. I think he had maybe 1 or 2 really good games that you can look back on and say, okay, that was it. Aside from that, Alexander Mattison did majority of the heavy lifting for this running group. That's going to have to change. First of all, Alexander Mattison is not in Vegas anymore. And then this is a name that I mentioned as the offseason, mainly the draft, when people were mentioning Ashton Jeanty. I said, I know he's older. I know he didn't play last season. But when he last played, Raheem Mostert won the rushing title. Raheem Mostert is in Vegas now. So I believe he's 32. So even if you were able to get 2 years out of him, maybe by 34, you know what's coming. Maybe you can get something good out of him, right? You signed a piece on the offensive line in terms of Alex Kappa. I mentioned that actually let's go level by level. You have a Landon Roberts as well. Let's talk about the quarterback position really quick. You lose Nate Hobbs from Green Bay, or to Green Bay, but then you get Eric Stokes from Green Bay. So essentially that's a wash. And then you add in Jeremy Chan at the safety position as well. So I think Vegas they've made some steps towards re-solidifying this group. Obviously, we're watching the Pete Carroll and John Spytek era begin. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not too mad at these moves. I think the draft is going to be really, really interesting to watch. Shout out to Shedeur Sanders for putting the city in a frenzy. I'm gonna remove myself from the city really quick because I seen it and was like, okay, I see what's happening. I do want to highlight really quick before we let Alex talk Raiders and then we talk A's and we're probably out of here. I heard, and I said this before, that the New York Giants has been reported, right? That the New York Giants have, like, they're skeptical and they have hesitation to draft Shedeur Sanders, apparently because of his father, the influence of his father. First thing I said was the New York Giants, you are the franchise that would pass up on potentially a generational quarterback because of his dad, who also was a generational player, probably. So I'm gonna say probably because y'all know how I feel about Deion. I know people are gonna mention both saying I said what I said, but have you been paying attention to mock drafts recently?
No.
So the lowest that I seen Shedeur drop to was 21st to Pittsburgh. And I don't usually do this, but I put it in my story on Instagram and I said 21st is disgusting. If y'all let Shedeur fall that low, you guys are crazy. And then I thought about it. Alex, this is rumor season.
Oh, yeah.
This is lie season.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do all this shaping and shifting for Shedeur Sanders to fall in Vegas's lap. When I seen him go to 21, I was pissed for the whole day. Next day, I woke up and was like, somebody is sullying this young man's name. So they fall. So he falls to them, rather. Shedeur is not going to be around at 21. It wouldn't shock me if somebody moves up and gets Shedeur. You know what's so funny? I don't know that the Raiders don't draft a person like an Ashton Genty at 6 and still make a trade at 13, 12.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. There's nothing on the back. Day 3, don't tune in. It ain't nothing there. Ain't got a draft pick. Probably ain't got a third rounder next year, but we got Ashton Genty and maybe Shedeur. Who cares how Geno plays this year? We're focused on the year after. You got Raider takes, man?
No.
No Raider takes? Before the show started, you said something. You said you was at NASCAR, and it was something else that you were doing this weekend. What was that?
What else was I doing?
I thought it was a second topic.
I
told myself I would save it to the third hour. Maybe I forgot.
Doing NASCAR. I was out there all week. I want to give. I think I wanted to just give UNLV hockey a shout out.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. They're.
You missed the window to do that. My bad.
That's all good. I mean, UNLV hockey right now. They're in the semifinals of the ECHA tournament. Trying to get their score up.
Let's do it.
They're in the semifinals. Gosh, who are they playing? Totally forgot who they were playing. But they're playing Liberty. So they're playing Liberty Flames in the semi-finals of the ACHA tournament, which is the national tournament for the club hockey. Their Final Four against Liberty. They were down 0-1 at the end of the first period, and still looks like that's the latest score update. So they're fighting in this game, and they're 2 wins away from being national champions if they're able to close it out.
The word national or the phrase national champions on campus, my stomach just dropped.
Yeah.
I just want you to know. You said national champions. I was like, don't say it. Don't say nothing. Remember when Derrick Rose was in the first round of the playoffs in his MVP season? And I don't know if you recall it. TNT did an interview with him, and they was like, youngest MVP ever. And you saw Derrick smile hard as hell, and he was like, man, don't say that. And they were like, why? He was like, because it ain't happened yet. Yeah. That's the way to approach
Yeah.
it, Derek. He was
Right.
like, but you seen the smile. He was like,
Yeah.
dog, please don't say that. Please don't say that. Anything can happen.
Mhm.
Speaking of anything can happen, let's talk about big league weekend here in Vegas. The A's and the Diamondbacks, of course. I gotta say the Athletics, right? I don't have a prefix anymore. I don't have a city. Athletics. The Athletics against the Arizona Diamondbacks, back-to-back nights or days rather from the Las Vegas ballpark, a place that you know, next to probably Matthew Raftery, shout out to Matt, and Markel Collins, who I mentioned earlier, you know better than anybody. I can't wait to get back to the ballpark. Matter of fact, UNLV plays at the ballpark on the 25th. I was low-key looking at my schedule like, so I wonder what time is the game?
Right.
I wonder if I can get maybe by the third inning. I can get
Yeah.
any excuse to go to Las Vegas ballpark. I'm trying to be there.
Right.
So I'm very upset that I missed these two games, but that's usually how you know March Madness is kicking in, right?
Mhm.
On Saturday, the A's took care of business against the Diamondbacks 4-2 from the Las Vegas ballpark. The following day, the D-backs got their revenge 7-5 on that beautiful Sunday. I'm just excited. I'm just excited about it. I had this conversation with Fran Reardon all the time. I asked him, how much does he watch the guys at the next level? And he was like, I got to be honest with you. Once they get to the next level, not much. He was like, I'll watch them sometimes.
Mhm.
But I told him, I was like, here's the point of why I asked him. And I said, because I was watching the A's game one day. A's game came on. I'm watching the lineup. And I laughed. I called my dad. I said, hey, I've covered 7 guys in the A's lineup.
Mhm.
And he was like, what does it mean? That future that we were talking about 2 years ago or so,
Mhm.
it's here. And I told my dad at the time that baseball has the most parity out of any of the major sports, right? There's no way that the A's should have fallen from grace, hit rock bottom, and started to ascend before the LA Angels, for instance, right? I'm not going to go off today. You guys know how I feel, but I'm not going to do it today about the Angels. The A's last season, I talked about it all year long. The A's overachieved last year. To see people like Lawrence Butler, to see people like Brent Rooker, who got a new contract, right? To see JP Sears, who actually pitched on Saturday when the A's got the victory, you have moments and you see little sprinkles. And I said it a couple of years ago. I said, A's, aside from Seth Brown, who was the longest tenured, still is, I believe, the longest tenured Oakland Athletic, I said at a certain point, you're going to have to sell tickets. And you're moving here to Vegas, you need to sell tickets. Last point that we have on this show before we get to my dad's tip in is the ballpark renderings that came. The most recent ones that came out. You're going to need to fill those seats. With all due respect, we know how it is when new stadiums get built, new arenas get built. 9 times out of 10, they fill up. This might be the 1 out of 10. The way that there's half of this city that don't want the A's. I told you guys for a while I was going to do my research and check, and I was hearing even from players, maybe ex-players, that an expansion team might be the last-minute move. It's happening. The A's are coming. Now I've done that research. I've had the offseason to kind of do some digging. It's done. It's happening. That said, the basketball, baseball, football guys that usually give it to us, right? The A's have Lawrence Butler. If you guys don't know anything about Lawrence Butler, a young man from Georgia who embodies what this new generation of baseball is going to be. I talked about Daz Cameron before he was traded, right? I was real high on Daz Cameron being the new generation of baseball. Brent Rooker had a down year 2 seasons ago. Last season, he bounces back. He gets a huge contract. That's somebody that's going to sell you tickets. JP Sears, similar to Mason Miller. Mason Miller and JP Sears, I remember sitting in the press box, and I was sitting next to Dick Calvert. Y'all know how I feel about DC. Shout out to the intro, right? Shout out to the intro of the show. I'm sitting next to DC. Mason Miller has his first game here in Vegas, fresh off of the trade. And or we did this for JP Sears and for Mason Miller. First inning happens. Both times. It's only happened twice. Mason Miller and JP Sears. Soon as the first half inning was over, DC and I looked at each other. He won't be here long. We saw Mason Miller throw 100, 101, and 99. We just looked at each other. That was the only start that Mason had in AAA. He was an Athletic right after that.
Mm-hmm.
Been an Athletic since. Mason Miller, JP Sears, Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, Shea Langoliers. You have pieces to sell now.
Yeah.
The problem is Sacramento is going to be putting the heat on for these next 2 seasons when they're playing at Sutter Health Park, which ultimately I believe they do the swap. And I think now that expansion team that was slotted for Vegas is going to Sacramento. Did you see the latest ballpark renderings?
I saw them.
I don't have anything like specific to talk about. It's just to bring up. You want to give your take on it really quick? Just some of the things that you've seen. Positioning. Obviously, people have talked about where it's going to be in the city.
Yeah,
that's still the only negative that I have. But my dad, don't text me about the Angels. Don't do that. Unnecessary.
Yeah. I just can't wait to see if it. The position, right. I'm not a fan of it being right there on the strip. Feels like it's going to be pretty crowded, pretty tight on there. What's the deal with parking?
Wait till you get a Memorial Day series against the Yankees. I'm telling you, respectfully, they've mentioned where it's at in the city. They've been like, oh, well, the strip is always busy. You're right. Are you ready for it to be busy on a random Wednesday? Are you ready for it to be busy on a random Tuesday in July?
Yeah.
Why? Because the Dodgers are in town.
Right.
And now you got 30,000 people, 30,000 plus filing into that beautiful. The joint looks beautiful.
Yeah.
With all due respect to the Rio, the Tropicana would still be standing if it was me. The Rio wouldn't be.
Right.
I'm excited for the air conditioning. First of all, I'm going to preface this by mentioning what I mentioned earlier with the Las Vegas ballpark. The Las Vegas ballpark, me and Don Logan, shout out to Don Logan, somebody who I also have great conversations with. Him and I was like geeking out over the fact that the chairs at the Las Vegas ballpark are mesh. We had a moment. Like you would have thought we were like cheersing a beer over a game-winning score. Can you believe that? Your legs can breathe. Like you don't get burnt like the back of your thighs if you wear some short. And like those are like the small details of Las Vegas ballpark that mattered, right?
Yeah.
Individual fans at every seat at the new stadium, that's a small detail that to me, I'm like, that's gonna keep people there.
Right.
I don't have to go and watch a bad team and be in 113 degree weather. I can kind of pick and choose.
Right. I've had that same feeling with those seats because I went to Cashman Field for a lot of my life, and it's kind of you gotta have to get the seat cushion. You have to get an extra shirt and just try to position yourself to make sure you're not getting blisters and burns on your thighs.
If you guys are not from Vegas, you have no idea why Alex is there laughing. I drove by Cashman and was like, oh, I haven't been by Cashman in at least a year, probably a year and a half.
Yeah.
I ain't been by Cashman in a minute. So I drove by Cashman and was like, ooh, let's put some love into this one. Have you driven by Sam Boyd recently?
Have I? No, I haven't.
I haven't done it in a while either. Maybe I should do it. I don't.
Yeah.
Cashman looks desolate. They look like they don't even care about Cashman anymore.
The last time I was there was the Vipers.
I was about to say XFL. Say it. Say it.
Vipers.
Bro, and shout out to The Rock, but we had that conversation. Whoever scouted Cashman, we don't feel like you did your due diligence because that's not the way we would have set that up. I don't think that's the way anybody would have set that up. But whatever. It's neither here nor there. Let's talk my dad's tipping and let's get out of here, man. We are about 3 minutes away from completing this 3-hour episode. This impromptu 3-hour episode. But we started it with some Kevin Kruger talk. Again, we talked about the Lady Rebels with some more postseason play, right? Lenny LaRock in the pursuit of her first postseason victory. We talked the Golden Knights, that road trip that was kind of shaky, kind of rough. Talked NHL trade deadline. We had a good 40 minutes on NFL moves. We talked a little Raiders, and now we're wrapping it up with the A's. My dad's tip in for today. This is funny. We see it all the time. An athlete that has put his or her heart and soul into a career, and one of the greatest rewards comes from those accomplishments. That comes from those accomplishments are records. From the home run king Barry Bonds, some people are going to argue with you, Dad, to the still running LeBron James, which is the NBA scoring king. Of course, being a Cowboy fan, he mentioned Emmitt Smith's reign as the NFL's all-time rushing king, and soon to be dethroned. And this is kind of got me feeling away. Wayne Gretzky as the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer, but that title is now 8 goals away. And obviously, Alex Ovechkin could be moments away from having that title. But my dad said he said all of that to say this: when we see these records being set, we think, damn, they'll never be touched. Just as the old saying goes, records are made to be broken. This brings me to my point. And the point is how the all-time 3-point scoring title. What? I think it might be a typo in here. How the all-time 3-point scoring title has been and will continue to be assaulted by a man named Steph Curry. And this is the funny part, because when he said it's continuing to be assaulted by Steph, that's the funny part, because it's right. Every time he sets a new mark, like James Harden said, he's still playing.
Oh, yeah.
So whatever number he hits, he has a game tomorrow. And then a game after that. And then another one after that. In 2005, my dad mentions Reggie Miller. He tells me to calm down. Nope. Anytime Reggie is mentioned, I'm going to do something like that. But in 2005, Reggie Miller retired as a 3-point king with 2,563 pointers. 6 years later, Ray Allen dethroned Miller and retired in 2014 with 2,973. This is really going to put this number into perspective. But while Allen was putting the finishing touches on his total, Steph was working on rewriting the record books. In 2021, exactly 2 weeks after passing Ray Allen, there it is. On a give and go with Golden State forward Nemanja Bjelica, Steph rose from the corner to bury his 3,000th career three-pointer. 3 seasons later, sitting at 3,998 three-pointers. Curry is on the verge of, and now this is obviously, he sent me this a couple of days ago, he's on the verge of joining, of ushering in the 4,000 club, which, by the way, Steph Curry did. Yeah. Shout out to Sam Gordon, formerly of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Minnesota's own, you know. Shout out to Sam Gordon for being in the building and covering that game and obviously having a piece of history with them. My dad said it's been fun to watch Steph casually sink those bombs and run back up the court and make the other team go night-night. It also has been fun to see how far. It's also going to be fun to see how far he goes with it as he tries to put the record out of touch. Or out of reach, rather. He said, P.S., just out of curiosity, I checked the next closest three-point leaders. I knew them just in order, but the numbers are crazy. James Harden is next at 3,124. And then Dame Lillard is next at 2,792. And then you have Steph's former Splash brother, Klay Thompson, at 2,665. He said, I think it's safe to say that these records are going to last for a while. Shout out to my dad for that tip in. I'm kind of with you on the Steph point only because you're echoing exactly what James Harden said. This man still has games. So even if he plays 3 more years, 2 more years, whatever you guys want, this number is going to increase. So, and just like Steph said too, and this is what I thought was a brilliant point by Steph. He passed Reggie, like he said, 2022 or 21, whatever the case may be. But then he's been passed several times by people.
Yeah.
James is past him. Dame is past him. Clay is past him. Reggie is 6th now. That is huge information. Like that's the bigger like aspect of it too. Another thing too that you guys have done, and I believe is correct. If he's not in the top 10, he's right outside of it. Everybody should know at this point of his career, LeBron James' best attribute his entire career has been his passing, has been his ability to make everybody around him better. I believe LeBron James is top 10 in 3-pointers made. Some things don't need to be said, guys, but this is why when you guys hate on people like Bron, it just looks away.
Where's MJ on that list?
Until next time, gang.